pull up a chair. This is Off the Back Porch. Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer is brought to you in part by Country Village Sporting Goods. Everything you need to get in the woods, the water, or to the camp is at Country Village Sporting Goods. Jason Hardy State Farm. Like a good neighbor, Jason Hardy at State Farm is there. And Larry's Pizza in El Dorado, home of the Double Pizza Parade.
20 plus years of bringing you the most important and latest information with local happenings, news, sports, opinions, and probably an attempt at humor. Also brought to you in part by Davis Farms Country Market. For farm to table fresh, it's Davis Farms Country Market. Cook's Body Shop. Chances are it will happen. And when it does, look to Cook's. Murphy Arts District. For the latest information on concerts and events, go to eldomad.com.
Recorded live from Main Street Pizza in historic, beautiful downtown El Dorado, Arkansas. With a history of being the voices you trust. This is Off the Back Porch with Boomer and Sandy. Or Sandy and Boomer. Or two old guys you've known for a long time, whatever. And now your hosts, Troy, Boomer, Barrios, and B.A. Sandy Sanford.
Thank you, Johnny Dean, and welcome again to another edition of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. And Boomer, here we are at our favorite place, and that is Main Street Pizza. And you know what?
What?
It's rainy, it's nasty outside, yeah. And that pizza sure is good today.
Well, I saw you already took a little slice already.
Yeah, I had a little swig of it,
and I just let that go.
Oh,
yeah, I did. I just watched you.
Congratulations on being able to let things go. That's new for you.
You know what? I'm not a let it go type person.
You're really not.
Well, and just like that lady said, who's become not a thorn in my side, but just helps me motivate to be a better person. Because, she thought that I'd become sad and angry after 30 years.
Angry old white man.
And 30 years ago was wondering what was in my mind. Yeah. And I was wondering myself. But yeah, a beautiful day outside.
Would you believe we live in the era we live in currently?
Would I believe it?
Yeah.
Things, there's a lot of things going on. Yeah, I believe I'm alive. Yeah. But
I'm talking about in an era where there's Razorback fans who are asking for the university to fire Dave Van Horn. You have to be a special kind of special to think there is another coach out there who can do
what Dave
Van Horn has done.
Yeah.
It does not exist. Well, we just got all this talent and we ain't done anything with it. Okay. Do you know how many teams in college baseball, hell, in the SEC, who would love to have Arkansas's record right now?
Yeah.
Who would love to be a 500 team?
Yeah, well, Arkansas can be, in the bottom half of the SEC and still be ranked in the 5 different college polls.
That's right.
Because the SEC is
baseball tough.
Baseball's tough too. And
I just can't believe we live in an era where there's people who really want to fire Dave Van Horn. And the team it's been disappointing so far this year, but the season's not over.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I will say about DVH teams. Until they call the third out of the final game, that season's never over.
Yeah, don't count them out because
there's been lots of teams who've made that mistake.
They've got a lot of talent and not playing up to their own standards right now.
Right.
And that's you're listening to the wrong show.
If you're listening to a show that's agreeing with firing Dave Van Horn, you are definitely on the wrong program.
I was listening to the Buzz yesterday. I went back and forth to Little Rock yesterday, and there are also some people that are wanting to fire Yurchek, and that would be the men's and women's tennis programs at the University of Arkansas that have been canceled.
Yes,
right before they qualifying, doing their qualifying at the end of their season, and it was. They were talking to a previous coach that had built the program for a long time, and I haven't followed tennis. And,
no, who has?
And that's the thing they're saying. Well, there's 150 people in the stands for tennis matches. Well, unless it's Roland Garros or the grass courts in the UK or the ones in New York, there's not a lot of people at any tennis courts, you know. So anyway, but they've had a great program over the years, and it's canceled now. And what I found out yesterday is that there, and I'm sure a lot of people know this, that doesn't make it apparent to me, but they have to have so many programs within the SEC to remain a D1 in the SEC, and you have to have 17.
17, I believe,
and the SEC, the Coaches Association or whatever, or the athletic directors want to try to make that down to 16 is what they want to do. And I think it has a lot to do with the NILs. That's taking a lot of money out of the coffers that they use to fund some of these sports that don't make money.
Well, okay, outside of football, basketball, maybe basketball. And then, of course, Arkansas baseball is a whole different animal because those tickets sell out day one.
Yeah,
for the whole year.
For the whole year, but it's a lot to do with the facilities. Yes. And Arkansas fans do support Arkansas sports. So, yeah.
But you know, maybe baseball. Maybe baseball makes money. I don't know that for sure. I mean, that's still a pretty big roster,
and that would be the end of it.
But that would be it.
Yeah.
Volleyball does not make money. No. Softball does not make money. Soccer does not make money. Swimming does not make money.
Or if they have diving or lacrosse or
indoor track and field.
There was one SEC school, and I don't remember which one it was. They kept the field. They dropped the field events and kept the track events.
Yeah.
So, you know, just a lot of funding there and coaches and anyway.
You know, funding, coaches, facilities, workouts, training, travel, food, scholarships, all of those things go into that consideration. And you have to remember, and they say, well, nobody shows up to the women's lacrosse games. You can't just cut a women's sport.
No, you can't cut women's sports.
You can't. I mean, Title IX. There's a whole thing about it. You know, federal law, Title IX. You can't cut women's sports. So then it's like, okay, are we competitive? To me, it's like, where are we losing the most? Tennis. That's an easy decision. But let's just say that we take the bottom five. Okay, tennis, lacrosse.
Soccer, tennis. I mean, we said tennis.
Soccer, maybe. You know, okay, are we competitive?
Yeah.
Yes. Then it's safe.
Yeah.
You know, for now.
Well, and then their contention was, the proponents for the tennis program was, had we had a conversation about it, we could have raised funds. There are enough alumni within the tennis program that are able to, you know. And they said $2.5 million. I guess that was the number that was budgeted for the program. They said we could have raised $2.5 million for the next 5 years. We could have gotten commitments for that.
Sure, but again,
supposedly that's what they're
again. So then, what sport do you get rid of?
Yeah. If you got to cut something,
because they have to. They have to get down to 17. And so they were like, okay, we'll get rid of this sport, and they get down to 17. So 2.5. Let's just say, okay, we're going to do lacrosse or field hockey or whatever you call it. But we're going to have a conversation first. Well, that might be $6.5 million.
Yeah.
So there's not much chance of them raising that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's it's just one of those things. Hey, y'all come on through. You're not bothering us. These ladies, they were.
Right,
y'all aren't too loud.
Everybody say your name as you go by. Peace out, sister.
Y'all take care. Oh, y'all weren't bothering us at all. Believe me.
We've had loud. They were not loud.
They were not even close. That group that was sitting at that table over there.
Well, and then when we had the pub crawlers in.
Yes. Yeah, when that was the firefighters union.
The firefighters union, yeah.
They came in, man, and they surrounded us. It was quick.
They were all over
every table around us. They had us surrounded. But.
Well, they came in early for supper. And we're still here. If if you're like me and eat supper at 4:30, then we'll still be here.
Yeah. Lots of times we are. Yeah, that's the truth. But back to my original thought. Yeah. I never would have believed we would be at a point in time where fans were so delusional that you think firing Dave Van Horn is the thing to do. And thank God Hunter Yurachek is smart enough not to listen to them.
Yeah. Well,
need I remind y'all how bad things can be? We could have Jeff Long back as AD. Do you remember that disastrous decision he made? That would be moving Pepsi in and taking Coke out. That was idiotic to say the least. But second, it was funny. They asked Hunter Yurachek, so it's your first day on the job. What do you think? He said, well, the very first thing I think is I just got through working out a deal with Coca-Cola. They're coming back. He said, that was the first question asked of me in the interview with the chancellors. Well, how do you feel about Coke versus Pepsi?
Yeah. Well, and here's my thing. If I go to a restaurant that's serving Pepsi products, and God bless Pepsi, I just don't like it.
I don't either.
There's a lot of things I don't drink, and I'm not disparaging them, so I just won't drink. I'll drink water or get a Minute Maid or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, Minute Maid's made by Coke too. But
yeah.
But your point is, I've been in places I say, yeah, I'd like a Coke. Is Pepsi okay? No. No, never.
Not the same.
I'm a Texan, so bring me Dr. Pepper.
So the biggest marketing ploy that Coke ever did was when they made Coke taste like Pepsi.
Oh, yeah. When the new Coke.
The new Coke, they made it taste like a Pepsi.
They did make it taste like Pepsi.
And they proved that Coca-Cola was the #1 brand.
And people were in the streets rioting.
Oh, yeah.
Rioting in the streets.
Yeah, you take away some things from the masses, and there will be rioting in the streets.
It was probably one day last week. It popped up on my timeline, my memories from Facebook, and it was from 2020, which was COVID. And I said, some of y'all act like we've never been through a crisis before. Do y'all not remember those 7 months we did without Bluebell?
Yes.
Man, that was, listen, I don't eat a lot of ice cream, okay? I'm not like our buddy Mike Nash. Every time I call him, like, what you up to, Nash?
Eat a little ice cream.
He said, sitting there eating a little ice cream.
So, Amanda lives in Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
And I said, boy, and I'll send, she loves the way I eat Bluebell chocolate ice cream. I put it in a small tumbler, like a whiskey glass, and pack it down in there, and then pour milk over it.
Uh-huh.
And if I have a banana, I cut a banana up in it. Sometimes I'll put pecans in it.
You bougie.
I'm bougie.
Yeah, okay.
I'm making me a Bluebell milkshake.
Yeah.
So I'll take a picture of it and send it to her, and she goes, we don't have Bluebell up here. I said, oh, well, then this makes this even more righteous for us.
Which is another sign that the Lord has turned his back on an area when they don't have Bluebell.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
It's
just us. It's
the
just
little
us
creamery
here.
from
Brenham, Texas.
Yeah. And here's the thing. When Tim Waltz claimed that he was responsible for did you hear this today? You don't watch the news. They've got some indictments against the Leering Center. In Minnesota. In Minnesota. And so Tim Waltz said, it's when state works together with federal and we share information. He said, we're going to protect the people of Minnesota.
So he's taking credit for the indictments that came down on the Somalis?
Yes. For the Leering Center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tim, I would just say this. If you were sitting here, I would say this. Don't celebrate yet.
Yeah.
Because they may not be done with the indictments.
Yeah. And
I'm just telling you, look, one, you either knew it was going on and let it happen, which makes you culpable, or two, you didn't know it was going on, and that makes you negligent. Yeah. Either way,
it's bad for you.
Either way, that's not good.
Yeah, and Amanda has pointed out. We see all the bad about Minnesota. Amanda has pointed out a lot of things that are good about Minnesota, and I understand that.
The Vikings. Yeah, I like the Vikings.
I love the Vikings too. They don't have a baseball team.
No.
Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, Minnesota Twins.
And but she's talking socially and politically, and I said, well, okay. Anyway. Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah.
So,
ow.
Yeah. So what about they tried to shoot the president again?
Yes, and it's his fault.
Of course.
Yeah,
well,
it's all the rhetoric.
This was my favorite, and that train showed up right on time, Boomer. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I told everybody at my house the night it happened. By this time tomorrow, here's what you're going to hear. Trump had that all done up. He had all that done so that the courts will go ahead and let him finish his ballroom. That it's not secure enough anywhere else. He's proven it's not secure enough anywhere else, so they can all go to the ballroom. They can now have that ballroom.
And both of the incidents before that happened on his attempts, his numbers went up.
Yeah.
So they're saying it was faked. We're shooting people to fake things.
Well, let me just say this. In a moment like that, and I'm throwing the fake thing out the window.
Yeah.
In a moment like that, there's no time to think. There's no time to decide what's politically expedient, what, the optics, how does that play out, the dressing of it all. You react, okay? Have you seen the pictures of what Trump did? He basically tries to grab Melania to throw her down.
Yeah.
And when the Secret Service comes up, okay, Vance had thrown his arm. J.D. Vance throws his arm out. Did you see how they yanked him off that stage?
Yeah, they did. They grabbed him by his shoulder pads.
Marco Rubio throws his wife down, throws her under the table.
Their prized possession.
Stephen Miller, who's a White House counsel, he threw his pregnant wife to the ground and draped his body.
I saw that.
But my favorite was Pete Hegseth.
I didn't see what Pete did.
Oh, so he throws his wife under the table, pushes other people at the table down, and then stands back up.
Like he's wanting to see where it's coming from.
Bring it. The look on there's a picture. The look on his face is like, I'm looking for the danger because I want it. To me, that's a man. That's a real man right there. On the other side, there was a picture that was sent out Saturday night that has mysteriously disappeared from the internet of an ABC reporter who hid behind his wife. Or the woman he was there with. I don't know.
I didn't see that either.
And you wonder why we think that the two sides are polar opposites. To me, that's one of the reasons why. It's just like when they shot Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, shot him in the ear. The first thing they were trying to drag him off stage. He's like, stop, wait. And he stood up and put a fist in the air.
Yeah,
and yelled, fight.
Yeah, we're not going to let them get to...
And here's my thing. Everyone at that event and all those who were watching by television needed to see him to make sure he was okay. To me, that was him saying, I'm fine. We're still going to fight. And...
at this event, he wanted to continue.
Yeah, he wanted to go back out there. Okay, okay, y'all got him? Good. Let's go back out there.
Well, they were going to have to clear the whole the whole complex.
Well, you don't know if that person's a lone gunman or not.
And what's so surprising is he rode a train from not L.A., but California to Chicago.
Yeah.
Got on another train, checked in, brought the guns up to his room. Now, there was corridors. There was, ways that you had to get past stuff. I can't remember the name, what they call it. And but he didn't get past anything into the ballroom.
No.
But he did try to run the gauntlet and get in.
Yeah.
But,
by the way,
fast.
Dude was fast.
Yeah,
he was real fast.
That was in fact, President said, "Hey, we need to sign him up for something because he's fast."
He's fast. I think that it was very clear, though, just how. Again, go back and look at what happened in Pennsylvania, and look how Secret Service reacted, and look how Secret Service reacted Saturday night. It's night and day difference.
Yeah, I think it's a little better.
I think that.
Well, that is
the difference between a detail that is under President Trump and one who was under President Biden.
Well, and in Pennsylvania, he was not the president.
No.
He was a candidate.
He was a candidate.
So
but he is a former president, so he has Secret Service protection for the rest of his life.
You're right.
And but all that being said is, and I'm not blaming Biden, but I'm not going down that route. I'm just saying that there's a certain attention to detail that leaders give. And there's certain times where you pull your hands back and you let other people do their job. This is one of those instances, however, where the people who were in charge of the Secret Service at that time, when Joe Biden was still president and President Trump was a candidate, and the people who are in charge now, you can see the difference in the way they act and react. And, I've watched a number of podcasts and interviews now with the people, some of the reporters who were there. And they say, I never gave Secret Service detail much thought. I never gave them much at all. But I am impressed at how well old machine they are.
And did you see the guys that ran out with long guns and helmets on?
Oh, yeah.
And jump tables and stuff? They said those guys are always around. You don't think about them much.
Yeah, you don't see them.
You don't see them much, but all of a sudden you did see them.
When President Bush came here back in 2004, I believe it was, I was downtown and I saw someone walking on top of Union Square guest quarters. I'm like, that's strange. And then I saw someone walking on top of Laredo Grill. Mm-hmm. Then I saw someone walking on top of, at that time, what was Bancorp South.
Okay.
And I'm like, I've been around enough Secret Service. I mean, worked for George W. Bush. I've been around enough Secret Service that that's who that is Secret Service. Mm-hmm. So I go back to my office and I call a guy I went to high school with who was Deputy Communications Director at the White House at the time. I said, President coming to El Dorado, Arkansas? He's like, absolutely not. Are you by your fax machine? I'm like, I can be. He said, go stand by it. I'll wait. Sure enough, it ring, it prints out, and it said on there. I couldn't release it for 3 days. It was dated 3 days ahead of time, but the president was coming. And he's like, "How did you know?" And I was like, "I spotted Secret Service."
I saw all the. I was coming from Magnolia, and helicopters and planes going everywhere, and I'm going, something big is happening, and we didn't know yet, or I didn't know yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the president comes to town, not Clinton, but who was before peanut farmer from Georgia, Carter came to the little town where I lived in Oklahoma. He'd gone there on a campaign and promised if he made president he'd come back. Oh man, a little town about the size of Magnolia was inundated.
Yes,
they put in a whole switchboard at one of the hotels. Yeah. So when the president comes to town,
so if you recall, he held his little rally over at the college.
At the college. And
for those of us who were in the press corps, we had to be inside this barrier,
sitting down
by 3 a.m. By 3 a.m. for a noon event.
They wanted it secure for the whole time.
So we got up there. Stephen Gay and I, rest in peace. We went up there. We were both there about 2:30. We haul all our equipment in. We go in. We set it all up. And I look at this Secret Service guy. I'm like, so you got us locked in. Y'all going to bring us breakfast? Or he was like,
oh no, sir.
No, he said the barrier stops right over there, and he pointed just the other side of Johnny B's. So everyone, I'm talking about White House press corps.
Was it
all
Johnny
of us,
B's?
We all go to Johnny B's at different
breakfast
points of that morning to have breakfast. Yeah, that was fun, and that was a good event. It was. Man, 2004 was a rough year. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, $4 gallon gas, double-digit unemployment. Yeah. 2 wars. I mean, we're not that far removed from Enron. I mean, it was bad. Yeah. It was a bad time. But he came to town. Everyone loved him, treated him well, and there were no protests. And that's the thing I think that has changed is people look for a reason to protest. Incidentally, you know what I haven't heard all week? I haven't heard anything about no kings.
No, I haven't heard any no kings.
Because we have a king in America right now.
Yeah, he's here. Yeah, and the queen.
Yeah, he and Camilla are here.
They're in New York right now.
I watched his speech to Congress yesterday. I thought it was really good.
I thought it was.
He was humorous, but with that famous dry Brit humor, And he said, so 250 years ago, or as we say in Britain, the other day. In other words, y'all are still new.
Yeah, we've been here thousands.
We've been here thousands of years. And I love he threw out there. He's like, 179 court cases the Supreme Court have decided have quoted the Magna Carta. Yeah. And something that was written in like 1215. He's like, yeah, that's us. Yeah. So, yeah, you're unique, America, but a lot of that stuff you got from us.
Yeah. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But, I've never been a Camilla fan. I'm still not.
Well, and she was the other woman.
Well, not only that, she's just not pretty.
And my wife was giving, Camilla the wings, the wings on the hair. She was giving her.
Yeah, 1977 called Camilla. They want their hair back.
Anyway.
So. All right, let's take a break. How about that?
All right.
We got a special guest coming up. This is Off the Back Porch. We'll be back right after this.
For longer than most of us can remember, Timber Lane Meat Market has been a staple of our community, where quality meats and friendly faces come standard. From everyday dinners to weekend cookouts, make it fresh, make it local, make it Timber Lane. Be sure to check out the daily lunch specials and like us on Facebook. Timber Lane Meat Market, 1336 West Hillsboro in El Dorado. Proud to be part of South Arkansas and even more proud to be displayed on your table.
When the long weeks, paychecks are cashed, where we gonna spend it, buddy? You ain't gotta ask. When the neon lights are kicking on, all of us are headed to a home away from home. It don't look like much, but we're pretty damn smart for some good old boys that can't pass the bar.
A new shipment of express boats is in at Country Village Sporting Goods. Or maybe your boat just needs a little TLC. We have appointments available in our service department. And of course, we keep a great selection of Catalina campers. New baits, new tackle, and the latest in gear are arriving every week. So when we say everything you need to get to the water, the woods, or the camp, you know we're talking about Country Village Sporting Goods, 965 Smackover Highway in El Dorado. Like us on Facebook.
For over 6 decades, Glenn Mechanical has been specializing in HVAC, plumbing, and all mechanical jobs. 3 generations, family-owned and operated since 1956. Glenn Mechanical's business is based on relationships. They support and give back to the communities they work in. Contact them for all of your HVAC, plumbing, and mechanical needs. GlennMechanical.com.
Serving South Arkansas for 25 years, and all the while expanding and growing throughout the state, ProMed Ambulance is proving their motto of world-class care and hometown values. For example, their new mobile integrated healthcare communication center. This state-of-the-art facility allows communication specialists to work directly with local 911 call centers to ensure the closest medical team is always dispatched to any emergency. World-class care and hometown values. For more information and career opportunities, go to ProMedAmbulance.com.
What if I get in a fender bender?
State Farm's there with the assist.
Jersey swap?
Jersey swap.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
Oh, I'm feeling this.
I assisted with security things.
Swap.
I assisted with popcorn.
Swap.
Get that jersey.
Get your corn there.
Hey, I assisted myself by filing a claim on the State Farm app.
Swap.
In my halftime show, I had...
It's a great story.
We're done swapping. Too late, circus man.
State Farm with the assist.
Hey, thanks and welcome back for more of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. And Boomer, we are very, very graced.
Yes, that was the word I was going to use.
With the presence of our special guest this week, and that's Dr. Stephanie Tully-Dartez. And she is the president of South Arkansas College, and someone I've been trying to get on to the podcast for quite a while now. And finally reached out to her, and I gave her a list of dates, and she said, yeah, that one. And I think she had to go into prayer and fasting and sackcloth and ashes first, just to be sure she's not tainted by the things that we say and do here. But
well, then I tried to mess that up because I'd written my CE class down wrong times. Thought it was 11 to 2, and I said, well, I can make it by 2, and it's 3 to 6. So that's right. Anyway, thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me. And I'm a big fan of education, so you do what you need to do when you need to do it.
You go do you.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk about it some here in a moment about how you got here, what made you stay, where you started at the college, where you are now, where you see the college going. But let me just say this: thank God for that baseball stadium y'all are building.
It's going to be amazing. The steel's going up right now.
I know.
I saw that.
I know. I get giddy. I literally got when I drive by. I'm a baseball guy. I love the game of baseball, and it doesn't matter to me if it's buddy ball, t-ball, pitching machine, youth league, U-trip, travel ball, high school, college, pro. I love baseball just in general, and so I'm like, I can really truthfully see that becoming the destination for the kids and I, especially on days where their mom's working late. I just snatch them up and say, "Come on, we're going to the ballpark."
Let's go to the ballpark.
You know,
tell her. I think our thing we want to do with the ballpark. And
yes,
we have a.
Okay, you got a plan?
It's a great fundraising idea. I'm telling you now, whoever gets in on this at the ground level,
can make some money.
So the way the stadium is situated, basically, towards the outfield is going to be over where Hillsborough and Southwest Avenue meet.
Yep.
Well, you know, they plan to build a roundabout there.
Yes. Well, okay. So we're actually aiming down toward west on Hillsborough. So the corner there is right field.
Right field.
So.
Okay.
Great place.
Okay.
For this, watch.
So here's what we do. There's going to be a certain number of seats up at the very top. And I would make them season ticket holders.
Okay.
That you get these really high up seats. So that in between innings you can do this.
And watch the roundabout. Because I promise you that's going to be as much entertainment. There's going to be some problems at the roundabout.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a straight shot from my office window.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for that entertainment. It's going to be a learning curve to literally drive it. And I'm also interested to see how much traffic gets routed through campus. I feel like we need to put a bunch of recruitment signs right there on Wesson as they try and dodge the roundabout.
Yeah.
You know, we have people in El Dorado right now who don't know that the turning lane is for turning.
Yeah, it's not a feeder lane.
It's not the feeder. That's right. So I can't wait to see it. I mean, I think it's going to be great entertainment.
There's a road that goes to Benton where I go to. You know, when you get to be 70, you have to go to doctor's appointments. So I'm going to this doctor's appointment where there's like 6 roundabouts on this road all the way back to Benton.
Yep.
And I drive a big vehicle. And you got to stay in your lane. You got to stay in your lane in the roundabout. And the only thing about a roundabout is just look left. If someone's coming from your left, don't get in their way. Let them go, and then anyway. So
simple instructions.
We want to be able to see that. Because, like you said, there's going to be a learning curve.
It's going to be very interesting.
We can sell tickets. I think we can sell tickets, Doctor.
Well, I just keep thinking everybody that proposes a business model is about the home runs hitting out toward the street. But I got to tell you, we're going to have a very, very big fence. This is almost going to look like a Top Golf because there's going to be so much netting on the outside. So I'm just saying, you know, for everyone that's concerned about fly balls going into the street, we're covered. So,
you know, if that's what you're worried about, if they say, hey, we're going to build this, you know, $25-50 million stadium, and your concern is, well, what about fly balls going out into the street? Go do something else.
Where's the Major League Park where they're in kayaks out there in right field?
San Francisco.
San Francisco. They're in kayaks in the water catching fly ball home runs.
Nice.
Have you ever seen a Cubs game?
Yeah.
Wrigley Field?
Yeah.
I mean, there's houses and
right
buildings
there.
all over that.
Yeah, I've been to Wrigley Field.
And the same thing in Houston. You know, they've built condos up behind them now. And I'm just like, dude, it'll be fine. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's like we had church softball team one time, and back when I lived in Texas, and Mike Poor, who just about any time he hit the ball, it was leaving the yard. Most of the time fair, sometimes foul. He hits a foul ball, it bounces off somebody's vehicle, and they come up there, and I mean, they're just blessing us out, right? And Mike's, you know, being really nice and for as long as he could, and he's like, what did you think was going to happen when you parked your vehicle
next to the field,
next to a softball field? What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, not that. Well, then I'm sorry. That's a lack of planning on your part.
Yeah.
You know,
you accept the responsibility.
But, you know, to your point, talking about doesn't matter what kind of baseball. You know, this is a multi-purpose field, so it'll be baseball and softball, and I am just very excited. I'm excited to see the Stars play because we have a heck of a baseball team.
Good coach.
We have a great coach.
Yeah.
But I'm also excited for some kids to have their first college experience on that field.
That's
because
right.
that makes a huge difference. When they see their future, they're going to envision that first time that they were on a college campus. And for some, that's going to be on the Stars field. That's going to be at Bill Howard Ballpark. And I'm excited for that. That
great.
first Little League game, that first the 14 to 16 age range, this is going to be transformative for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's the
And
future we're looking for.
Also, the colleges purchased the property where there's going to be a parking lot where there used to be a motel.
Yes.
And so that's going to be a great addition as well. I see that they're already working on that already.
Well,
Absolutely,
the best
my favorite parking lot in town.
The best addition is making that a parking lot.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, that wasn't the worst hotel in town when I moved here. Where the stadium is, that was the worst hotel in town when I moved.
The Mini Inn?
It was
it was a Holiday Inn.
Pine Tree or something.
Well,
it was the Holiday Inn.
It was a Holiday at one time.
And I know this because we also had the Townhouse, which was across the street from the Flamingo. So where our housing is being built was the Townhouse Motel.
Yeah.
Then we bought the land that was the Holiday
Inn.
And now we bought the Flamingo. And I did not know that you can find vintage postcards from El Dorado in the 60s on eBay, but I now own postcards from all three of those.
Cool. Wow.
It's going in my office.
Good
I'm very
on you.
excited about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's
There
cool.
was a time when they were just the coolest places to visit and part of the downtown landscape, and now that's changing. But it's a great history to honor and a great new vision to celebrate.
And Townhouse was the home-cooked meal restaurant.
It's still so good.
It's still so good.
It's-
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
they
they
don't have a
moved, but
lot of
it's still the
seating
same.
anymore.
No,
but
none.
Yeah.
There's no seating inside anymore. But my thing is though, if we get Townhouse, I can't eat again the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I can't. Number one, I can't ever finish what I get. But I can't. I mean, I'm done for the day. I'm not going to eat anything else.
Yeah.
It's so big and so good.
Yep.
And that fried cornbread, I don't know, man. There's just
Hot water cornbread.
yes. And I tell people, I say, I don't like stereotypes, but there's some things you eat and you're just like, a white person didn't make that. I'm just telling you now.
You don't have the grit to make that.
And I don't remember. Jax and I were eating something the other day, and I told him, I said, look, if I got up right now and walked back in that kitchen, somebody grandmama in there, with a menthol hanging out her mouth and her heels hanging this far off her house shoes.
Or sure was someone like that showed them how to make it.
Yeah.
Same way at Union Station, where the post office is now.
Yeah.
That was a great place to eat.
Yes.
We'd go there on Sundays and have the same kind of food at Townhouse.
At Townhouse, yeah. So let's see, Boomer. We have we have gotten some letters, and this one I think you'll appreciate. Dear Sandy and Boomer, y'all wax poetic about life in the 70s and 80s. Have neither of you ever watched one documentary about life back then? Life was not safe for y'all. All of those begin with, we had no idea, or we didn't know. It's a miracle anyone who was a child back then made it out alive. Dakota and El Dorado.
That's true.
Absolutely true.
We didn't ride our bikes with helmets on.
Oh no.
And no one worried about guns. In fact, not at my school because we weren't a hunting area. But when I moved to Oklahoma, the high school would show up in trucks, the kids. And there'd be
Guns
a shotgun or a rifle in the gun rack.
They did that at my school.
And it was not uncommon. And so, we were made to go outside. Mama said, go outside and play. And, don't come back until the lights come on. And it's a lot of that happened. But she's right. We thought smoking was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And drinking while you're pregnant, we thought that was great.
That was
too.
okay. Yeah. I mean, there was nothing like back in the 70s as a kid, and some guy pulls up in a van and says, hey, I've lost my puppy, and I'll give you some candy as a reward if you'll help me find it. Sure. Why not? I mean, we've all seen Scooby-Doo. As long as we don't go to an abandoned amusement park, I'm fine. Yeah.
Although we did have this one guy that wanted to start a drum and bugle corps. And we would meet down at the school playground, and Mama said, no, who is this man? I don't know. There's just a bunch of us kids, and he's letting us twirl rifles, those wooden rifles.
Yeah.
No, she goes, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that guy wouldn't.
It's like
on the up and up.
My 18-year-old, I told her, she was telling me about this job interview and telling me how much the job's going to pay. I said, did he say anything about him needing to take pictures of you? Or... And she's like, no, Dad. I'm like, okay. I'm just being sure.
That much. Well, then go ahead.
Dear Sandy and Boomer, especially that pompous ass Sandy.
Wow. Got you this week.
Yeah. You have zero quarrel with giving out deliberate misinformation about the COVID vaccine, I'm guessing. I would have hoped that 6 years later, all of the ignorant who chose to be that way would at least stick to their right-wing philosophy of what I do should be private. Okay. My husband and I both got the vaccine, and thank Joe Biden we did, because within just a couple of days, we were both COVID positive. Imagine what it would have been like had we not been vaccinated. Then when Omega and Omicron...
You mean the one that was going to stop it? Okay, go ahead.
Then when Omega and Omicron came out on the scene, we both received both of the boosters. Guess what? Both times just in time, because we were both COVID positive again. We have had the virus 3 times. I suppose you'd be happier if we hadn't had the vaccine and just died. You and your orange president want people to die, especially if we have a brain and think for ourselves and know how to properly vote. Well, guess what? The reckoning is coming. One day we will be back in charge, and the first thing I hope we do is gather up idiots like you and put your fat ass in an education center to be sure you understand where you went wrong. Until then, yuck it up, fat boy, because if I had my way, people like you would never have a podcast. Karen. And knowing you wouldn't dare read a truth bomb like this to your audience feels like I'm wasting my time, but go ahead and joke about my name, Karen from El Dorado.
I thought the one that got me was bad. That was baby
That was
manure.
brutal. That was brutal. First of all, Karen, let me just say this. If you're getting your vaccine information from me,
yeah, you're in deep
is that
trouble.
my fault? I mean, honestly, if you're taking your medical advice from me,
here's what I like.
I'm one in the wrong here.
Here's what I like. You be you. Whatever you want to be.
Whatever you want to do.
You know, I'm a live and let live kind of guy. If you ask me, I'm going to, or if I feel like your life's in danger, I may say, oh, I wouldn't do that. But you do you. I had a guy that worked for me of a certain persuasion, and he called me Big Daddy. Does that tell you anything? And he says, I think you're okay with this, Big Daddy. I said, not so much. I said, but I love you. I said, but you got to do you.
Yeah.
I said, how you decide that you're of a free age, how you decide to live your life is up to you. It's not up to me.
Yeah.
And you got to answer for it, not me.
Here's my favorite part of that whole letter. Number one, me and my orange president, as you called him. I can't speak for him, but I know for me, I don't want people to die. My dad died from COVID. COVID took my dad.
Yeah.
My best friend in this entire world, COVID took him. Quick. So no, I don't want people to die. But I love the fact that when you're in charge, you hope they gather up people like me and take my fat ass, I believe she said, ass
re-education.
to an education camp. It's been tried before, right?
Yeah, we did that.
That was back in the 40s, and it was they all went around yelling Heil Hitler, but whatever.
Well, we did it with the Orientals, and we did it with the Germans,
with Japanese and Germans, yeah. And then
we learned from that.
You also say that if it were up to you, people like me couldn't have a podcast. So much for free speech, right? So I'm still trying to figure out if I'm assuming by the tone of her letter that she's a champion of liberal and progressive philosophies. Yeah. Well, true liberals and true progressives, they don't want to limit. True liberals and true progressives don't want to limit free speech. They don't want to re-educate. Win in the theater of ideas. That's where the arena is. If you want to be in charge, win in the theater of ideas. And you don't want to do that. You want to just forcibly.
Yeah, that's the thing that got some people killed.
Yeah, we fought wars over this.
Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
Some assassinations.
Yeah. So anyway, Karen.
We both anywayed.
Yeah, Karen.
God bless you, baby.
I hope you enjoy your life.
Yeah.
I really do. I hope that you and your husband are never COVID positive again.
Yeah, I don't want you to die from COVID. Yeah.
No, I don't.
And if you took the shots, that's that's up to you.
Yeah.
My wife and I took them. We didn't take any of the boosters or anything, but we both took them, and we got it 3 times. So, so be it.
Figure that.
Yeah.
Dear Sandy and Boomer, I was watching one of your older episodes, and Sandy was talking about Coke versus Pepsi, Chevy versus Ford, Democrat versus Republican. He said he grew up in a Coke, Chevrolet, Democrat house, and then said, I'm still 2 out of the 3. Which one changed? Andrea in El Dorado. Really, Andrea?
Well, come on, Andrea.
You
hadn't watched any of these podcasts.
You can't tell which one changed. I mean, actually, I didn't change.
Yeah.
The party changed.
Yeah.
So
the arena of ideas has changed.
And also incidentally, I don't call myself a Republican.
Yeah, I don't much.
I've
call
stopped
myself
doing that
either.
20-something years ago.
Because there's a lot of things they do that are just goofy as well.
Yeah.
And I saw House of Cards. I saw House of Cards where the Republican and the Democrat got in the same room, and they just put off. They took all the act off and says, "All right, what do you want?"
People call that a drama.
I want to be in charge for a while, and you make fun of me, and then we'll flip.
People call that a drama. I say it's more like a documentary.
Oh, it was.
I think that's the stuff. Listen, I've worked in politics.
That's the stuff politics are made of.
I've worked in national elections, and I'm just telling you, there are things that are said in national elections in little rooms where you sign non-disclosure agreements that would just blow you away.
Yeah.
And that, like Forrest said, that's all I'm going to say about that.
About that.
Yeah. So, Boomer, you got to go. You've got stuff to do.
Is it already time?
It's close. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's close. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will be without Boomer.
You'll have some fun then.
Then the party can start. My real friends will be here. All right, we're going to take a break. This is Off the Back Porch. We'll be back right after this.
The brand new deli is open at Davis Farms Country Market, featuring Boar's Head cheese and meats. Try the Turkey Bacon Ranch, the London Broil Roast Beef, the Club Sandwich, or a fresh and crispy BLT. Check out their cranberry and pecan chicken salad, not to mention fresh hot gumbo, the soup of the day, and more. Davis Farms Country Market, 4523 Junction City Highway, or call 870-639-1323.
Bad things happen, and of course, they never happen at the right time. Maybe it's just a little bump and cosmetic damage, or it's turned into a huge insurance claim and you just don't know where to go next. That's why so many of your neighbors and friends call on Cook's Body Shop in El Dorado. From the minor to the major, Cook's Body Shop is in your corner. Need someone to help you deal with insurance? Look to Cook's. Need advice on what to do next? Look to Cook's. Need a free estimate? Look to Cook's. Bad things are going to happen, and when they do, look to Cook's.
32 years ago, a young Robert Rushing began his life of public service joining the El Dorado Fire Department. While saving lives during the day, Robert Rushing put himself through college and law school at night, eventually opening a law practice in 2010 to protect and serve the rights of people in South Arkansas. By the way, he was still working as a fireman at the time. And after 23 years of service, Robert Rushing answered the call again and was elected as city attorney. Today, Robert Rushing still has that desire to serve. Re-elect Robert Rushing as El Dorado City Attorney.
Rated the #1 course in Arkansas by Golf Week, Mystic Creek is truly a hidden gem, complemented by a modern clubhouse, complete with panoramic views. It also features a fully stocked pro shop and Mystic Grill, serving contemporary American cuisine and Southern classics. Mystic Creek promises an unforgettable experience.
Hey, welcome back for more of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. Sans the Boomer, and again, he had something he had to go take care of for his continuing education classes. And Dr. Stephanie Tully-Dartez is our guest, and I one of the reasons I had asked her onto the podcast was, Stephanie, you are, and okay to refer to you just as Stephanie?
Yeah,
okay.
Everybody does, including most of my students.
Okay.
Last name's a doozy, so
Yeah.
Stephanie.
Yeah. My first introduction to you was obviously when you were named president of the college, but I thought it unique that you and your husband moved here many years ago, and like me, had probably ample opportunities to go and further your career somewhere else, but you chose to stay. How did y'all get here first?
So I was
Pull that microphone closer to you, please.
Sure. So I was in graduate school at Louisiana Tech, working on my PhD, and I met my husband, who is an engineer, and he works in Camden, and fell in love, got married, that whole thing. And I graduated in 2009 in a time when postdocs were pretty limited, if you think about where the economy was then. And he had a solid job, and so we said, okay, you know what, El Dorado, being between the two, was a good place for us to land for a little while longer. I'll get a job for a year doing something at the college, and and then we'll reassess the situation. And 17 years and a house and a couple of kids and a huge investment in our community. We can't imagine living anywhere else.
Right.
I mean, this is our home. You know, if you're not born in El Dorado, you're not from El Dorado.
Right.
But honestly, this has become more of our home than my childhood home even.
I agree.
And
Same for me.
I feel like this is our community. This is where we're supposed to be. This is where our kids were born, at the local hospital. And everything we do is to try and make a better future for them here, which makes every day a pleasure to come to work.
Right.
You know?
Much like you, I wasn't born here, but I have now lived in El Dorado longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. Heck, I've lived in the house that I live in longer than I've ever lived in a house. But my thought when I came in 2002 was 4, maybe 5 years, and I will have had the experience necessary to step up in market size. And in radio world, that's where that's the difference, is market size. I was about 3 years in when I was offered my first job in a larger market, and I politely turned it down. And then about a year later, this guy who owns radio stations all over America calls me and says, "Hey, man, we'll be coming through El Dorado. You want to go play golf?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So his son and I and Boomer, we all 4 go play golf. And I'll never forget, we were on what then was hole number 14 at the country club. And his son's hitting, and Boomer's down at the golf cart, and he leans over and he says, "So, what is it going to take for me to get you to come run my radio stations in such and such town?" I was like, "Oh man, had I known that's what you were coming to town for, I'd have saved you the time." I said, that's not going to happen. "Well, you don't know what I'm offering." I said, "It doesn't matter. It really doesn't." And it really didn't matter, because it was more than just one. I was fairly compensated for what I did here, but there was I was very happy. The ownership of the company at the time, I was just very elated with where I worked. I had no desire to go anywhere else. A couple years later, a friend of mine who is he was an acquaintance, but we've become friends since, who was a regional vice president for a very large media company, invites me to Maumelle to come play golf. And so I go to Maumelle, and his boss, the national president of this company, was with him. And they start chatting me up, wanting me to go to Lake Charles. They wanted to send me to Lake Charles, Louisiana. And I was like, "Guys, I didn't know I was showing up for a job interview. So I would have saved us both the time. I'm not interested." And that didn't stop them from continuing to. I got calls from them probably once a quarter. But I just chose to be here.
But see, you need those times every once in a while where you have that call to question and you find yourself answering it. Yeah, no, El Dorado is where I'm supposed to be.
This is where I want to be.
This is
That's
my
right.
home. And you got to have that question every once in a while. And I'm grateful that it happened to you, because it's made you solid in your decision. And I think every time that question has come to us, it's not been, well, maybe one more year. It's like, no, the answer is no. This is where we want to be. So.
I went through a divorce, and especially because I ended up with custody of my kids, my thing was, for my boys, neither one were born here, but this is the only home they've ever known. They were too small to ever remember living anywhere else.
Yeah.
They were like 18 months and maybe 3 years old when they moved here. So it was, this is the only home they've ever known.
Every memory.
And so when I left the local radio stations, I had 2 big offers. One was from a television station in Shreveport, and when I say the financial package was obscene, it was pornographic. It was. I didn't have any idea I was worth that much money on the open market. And then in Cape Girardeau, Missouri was another offer. And I just kept thinking, one, I don't want to move to Missouri because it was just that much further away from their mom who had moved back to Texas. All of their family on both sides. We had no family, any further north. And then did I really want to go back to Shreveport where I started my career? Mm-hmm. Even though, granted, I would have walked in way up here on the ladder as opposed to where I started. But I was just like, no, I don't. I think I want to stay, and I'm glad. I'm glad I did. I mean, it'd be awfully funny if I lived in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, having a podcast on South Arkansas now. So
that probably wouldn't have the same viewership.
It probably would not. To just be honest, but so you came to work at the college, and then you. What did you start off doing at the college?
So I started out in institutional effectiveness, which is kind of the quality engineer of the college, constantly looking at the metrics, looking for places to improve, that kind of thing. And then there was a time when it said that when my boss came to me and said, hey, you know what? We need some help in this area, so let's add that. I'm like, okay. And then a few months later, well, we're going to add this now. And, well, these are doing okay, so we're going to pull those back and shift to this. And not to go through the whole resume, but essentially by the time that I was asked to be interim president, which I questioned, but felt like I needed to do it. And then I found myself searching for a new CFO, so I was now supervising people in the administration part. And at that point, I realized I had literally supervised every director or dean at the college. And it's like, well, I got this. And so I am very grateful that I have always been the person that could step up and say, I will help with this. And that's career advice I give to people. It's like, don't ever turn down an opportunity. It may not be the thing that you always saw yourself doing, but you're going to learn from it one way or the other. So,
I think I was 26 when I was named operations manager at a radio station in Louisiana. And we had 4 stations and in 4 different towns. And I, at that time, there was no question I was the youngest operations manager in the state. And then I went on, and I think I was 29 when I got my first gig as a general manager of a group of radio stations in Texas. And then I was 32 when I got the call to come manage these stations here. They allowed me to hire my replacement there in Texas. And so one of the guys that applied for it just so happened to have been, he was my sales manager at the very first radio station I ever worked at. He was sales manager. I worked under him. And he said, man, you've just been lucky. And I was like, you're right. It's been a situation of right place at the right time. He's like, oh, yeah. And I said, given that, it was because I was always at work. So when there was no one to go call that ball game that no one wanted to do, I would go do it. Yeah. When no one wanted to go to the very edge of where our broadcast signal reached to do a live remote, for 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon in the middle of the summer, no one wants to do that.
I'm on it.
I would do it, when someone couldn't show up for their shift because this baseball game we're going to put on the air tonight, I would go do it. When no one would be there to do the news, or no one was there to go fix the transmitter because the power went off, I would do those things. And I was like, so yeah, I've just always been at the right place at the right time. And he didn't find I don't think he found the lesson in that.
Yeah.
Because he was definitely one of those guys that his vocabulary definitely had the words, that's not my job.
Yeah.
And anyone who's ever worked for me will tell you real quick, the quickest way for me to terminate an employee is to ever hear the words, that's not my job. Because I used to tell people, I'm not going to, a lot of people say, I wouldn't ask you to do something I'm not willing to do. I'm not going to ask you to do something I'm not already doing. That's the thing is, so if I ask you to do something, it's because I need to move on to something else. I had an employee, great voice, big, booming, golden voice, right? 30 years experience in radio, wrote and produced some of the best best commercials you would ever hear on radio. And I come in one day, I'd been out seeing clients, and I come walking in, and I don't see him. And I walk down the hallway, and he's on his hands and knees in the bathroom cleaning. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, man, it needed to be cleaned. And I was like, I appreciate you doing it. And he's like, man, there's nothing that's beneath me. I said, I get it. I do. I said, but I want you to think about it for a second. You've got 8 employees. You can delegate that.
Yeah.
Because, see, you and your big booming voice, you're not making me or this company a penny in here washing the floors of the bathroom or cleaning the toilet. What I need you doing is going back in that studio and cranking those commercials out. I said, I'm grateful, don't get me wrong, but know your role, know your worth, and you're worth nothing to me right here.
Well, and that comes from that global understanding of what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And for a moment, the bathroom was the priority, to get that clean. But big picture wise, best use of resources in the best place.
Again, the bad part is when I got through telling him that, I walked through the engineering area and I passed one of the studios, and there's one of his part-time employees in there reading a newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
That kid could have been cleaning the bathroom while he was in there, with that golden voice knocking commercials out. So, again, one of those things. So you were interim president, and obviously put your name in consideration to be president. One of the things that I had no say so. I had no dog in the fight, if you will. Yeah. But one of the things I was saying when that process was going on, I said, I just hope we get a president who's not looking at this as the stepping stone to their next job. Because unfortunately for me, since I had lived in El Dorado, that's what it had appeared to be. It was and I get it. Cities like El Dorado, I say it's about golf pros and DJs. Most of the time, you get people who are either on their way up or on their way down. You don't get someone who comes in their 20s or 30s and they stay for 20 or 30 years. That just normally doesn't happen in a city our size. So when you find people who like that, you try to hold on to them. So I understand a lot of people, but it really got to where it was like everything a person was doing in that position was just so they could pad a resume. They didn't care if it really worked. They didn't really care if it was the best thing for the community. They didn't care if it was really the best thing for the college. They wanted to be able to sit down in front of a board of chancellors at a bigger school and say, yes, I was able to do, and I almost said some of the stuff, and I'm not going to say it, but I was able to accomplish this. Well, never mind that was an unmitigated disaster, what you did. You got it on your resume. Congratulations.
Well, and one of the things that is so frustrating in our field is that so many of the systems are designed so that there is this turnover, and the average tenure of not tenure, but the average length of time that any president is added to your college is shrinking to about 5 years.
Wow.
And that's nationally. And so when you think about moving on to that next place, they're constantly moving. It is unusual when you see somebody that is in a place for a decade. And that was something that I was genuinely concerned about when I applied, is I don't want to leave. And so what is the expectation? Is the new going to wear off? Like, I need a plan for us to grow together. And that's kind of where we're at with the college is, I have been in the role for 3 years, thanks to the interim, and I see the college continuing to evolve so I can evolve with it. And that's my goal, is I want to stick with the plan long term and make this the kind of institution that our community needs. And in many ways it already is, but there's just some tweaks.
There are.
Then that's the plan.
There are. So, for example, I noticed we dropped the term community, South Ark Community College, and now we're South Arkansas College. Tell me the thought there.
Real easy answer. It's about a regional approach. When you think about the way that the municipal colleges were formed, even before this country was officially a country, or the community colleges, it was supposed to serve those that were just in the immediate area. When you look at what we offer in terms of programming, we have things that you can't get in other places within a 2-3 hour drive. And so I have students that are driving from Lafayette, Louisiana. We've got students that are driving from Hamburg. And so when we think about our physical therapist assistant program, which is one of very few in the state, we want to be able to pull from more than just our community. And so by dropping that community name, we're the regional college, but instead of being a community college, we're the college for our community, because we're trying to bring in talent and keep them here.
Yes, recruit them and keep them. Yeah, exactly.
That's the simple story behind it. It's not an identity change. It's not an attempt to become a 4-year. It's simply that we're a regional solution, and we're also trying to bring talent here. So
you brought it up. I wasn't going to, but you just said it.
Okay.
So there was a group of ladies who were sitting at this table behind me when I first came in, was setting up equipment, and they were like, "Oh, that's the Off the Back Porch guy," and they said, one of them said, "So who's your guest this week?" And I told them you were going to be my guest, and they said, "Well, are we gonna make that a 4-year college?" And I wasn't going to ask you, but you just said it. So what are the prospects of South Arkansas College becoming a 4-year institution?
Absolutely never.
Never. Okay.
And I will tell you why, and you're going to love it. So we provide the kinds of degrees that are needed in our community. We have registered nursing, and we're expanding that program. We've got industrial engineering technology. If you want to get a job in our region, there is a good chance that you can either become trained or get your start at South Arkansas College. So to go to a 4-year and offer 4-year degrees that don't necessarily align means people spend more time in college and more expense, and not necessarily the right fit for the employment that's in our region. So you absolutely need the degrees that we offer at the level we offer them. But one of the things that actually makes a difference in small town attrition and population loss is the presence of a college or university. So that's where we come in, and we're trying to be the college that this community needs. When you think of things like housing and athletics, when people say they want a 4-year, and they look at what we're doing and they say, "Oh yeah, things are going great. When are you going to become a 4-year?" I take it as a compliment, because they're seeing us as the college that they need. But really, it's about being the right degrees and the right population. And so we're able to, with housing, bring people into our community. And that makes a difference in terms of potential growth and staying, but it also means short term, you've got more residents. You've got more people buying groceries. You've got more people that can serve as wait staff at restaurants. You've got that college-age population that can serve an entire hospitality and tourism industry, frankly. And then simultaneously, you get athletics. We have one of, our gym on our campus is one of the oldest athletic facilities in the region. Happens to have been designed by John Abbott, who was the founding member of CADM, which is the architecture firm that is designing our baseball stadium.
Yeah.
So when I think about athletics and our presence, that means so much to people, because it gives that aspirations to little kids. It gives entertainment options to our community. And it's the thing that people come back to. The degrees get them into the jobs, but that sense of community that you get in a college environment is what keeps them there forever. It gets that place of home and heart.
I mean, and honestly, if you're a 4-year, what are you going to do if you graduate 16 people with history degrees?
Exactly.
I mean, unless they're going on to some other field where they needed a history degree to get there, you know. So now, can a person attend South Arkansas College and eventually graduate with a bachelor's?
Absolutely. Not from us, but in the state of Arkansas, if you get an Associate of Arts from a 2-year college, you are guaranteed junior status when you transfer. So you can finish up a bachelor's degree anywhere in the state. We have a number of MOUs, so those memorandums of understanding, with partner universities to help complete that, either at their location or online. So a person can finish a bachelor's degree that they start with an associate's degree in South Arkansas College. And so, if there's a need for a 4-year degree, education being a great example, business, those are available to our folks locally. We can make that happen. But I love it when people ask me about the 4-year, because it means that they're noticing.
That's right. That's exactly what it means. Is they're noticing and they think, well, that's the natural progression, and not.
I'm going to make people understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not understanding that that's not actually the natural progression.
No.
You know.
Just come to a ball game. Our tennis team is headed to nationals tomorrow.
Is that right?
Yeah, they're flying on Contour Airlines to South Carolina to go play tennis and at the national championships for the NJCAA, and you know, that's what most people in town. They're not looking. Where can I get a bachelor's degree in history graduate? No, they're looking for what is this college bringing to me?
Right.
So
yeah, I mean,
that's what we're bringing to you.
You know,
and I'm never starting football.
Yeah, thank you.
People ask me that a lot, so let me just say it for the record: no football, no 4-year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can't imagine. You know, I've watched those Netflix shows about the junior colleges with football. Whew, no, thank you. That's, you know, and I hate to throw everyone in one group, so I'm not doing that. I am just going to say that a majority of those players who are playing JUCO football, they didn't have the grades or they had behavioral issues that kept them from being offered at larger schools. And how those coaches deal with some of them and you know, with people who already have a problem with authority and making good decisions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be tough.
I'm so proud of our coaches and the strategy that they've had in trying to recruit, and they are looking for future leaders, because that's what athletics means to me.
Yes.
I am an athletics fan. I am not a sports fan. So I see this as growing people that know how to show up on time, that can work as a team, that can communicate, that can have multiple priorities. They're building great leaders, and they're recruiting great potential leaders, not just athletes. And
Agreed.
I am really proud of our coaches and the work that they're doing. And I will say that as our basketball, every time I see our basketball coaches, they're with another extremely tall person that they're touring around campus, and it's just great to see that, and their parents. So.
You know, of course, we had both your men's and women's basketball coaches on the podcast, and you know, I asked them plainly. I said, "How do you go sit down in someone's living room and say, hey, you're not good enough to play Division I basketball. Come to El Dorado, Arkansas." And they, you know, I like what I believe was your men's basketball coach told us. He said, "I don't." He said, "What I go there and say is, send me your boy, I'll send him back a man. I'll send you back someone who knows how to do their own laundry, who knows how to get up on time, who knows how to be somewhere on time, who knows how to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, sir, and no, ma'am." He said, "If you will send me a boy, I will send you back a man."
Yep. That sounds like a Coach Collins things to say.
Yeah.
And, you know, I go back to that. It's like we're not trying to compete with somebody else. We are the best at what we do. We are not a backup plan. We are a first choice. It's just we've got to be the first choice and the right fit.
Yes.
So,
and of course, Cannon Lester, you know, what could go wrong when you have a homegrown coach like that who's not just him, but comes from baseball royalty, what I call, you know, locally, and then has paid his dues. You know, he's gone through the progressions of you know, playing high school and college and being drafted into the pros, and then coaching high school and into college. So, and I mean, here's a guy that knows how to play the game and how to play it well, how to play it right, and but more importantly than that, understands that his main role is to train up men and respectable men.
And he does it for South Arkansas.
And he does. That's right.
Yeah. This is his home too.
That's right.
So.
And so yeah, you definitely got a gem there, and that's not saying that everything Cannon does is perfect, but at the same time, there's a guy that when it comes down to the end of the day, he's going to do the right thing for the right reasons, and that in and of itself makes you want to trust him with your future with kids and young men. I've said for years that South Arkansas is a baseball hub, and by that I mean if you go and look at the last, I looked it up, it was a couple years ago. Then 12 state championships over the last either 15 or 16 years was won by a school right here in our little area, not just Union County, although a lot of them were won here. Not just Union County, but maybe it was, within a 3 or 4 county. There's a lot of good baseball players, and that makes it fun when you go out to recruit. So let's see, what are some of the things that you can share with us that you have planned, that is planned for the college?
Okay. Well, obviously, we've got housing going up.
Yes.
5,000 bricks a day, fast. So you cannot miss it if you're turning down Northwest Avenue, and simultaneously the construction of the ballpark. So I think everybody's pretty familiar with those two projects. But we're also working, we received a federal grant to help us establish another track of registered nursing, which means that once all of that comes to fruition, in addition to what we already have, we'll have 56 graduates annually coming out as registered nurses. So that's something that's very exciting. But that also means that we're having to expand our simulation environment, which when we get a chance, we're going to tour you guys. But that's something that we've been talking with UAMS about, is potentially addressing some of their local training needs and using our new expanded facilities. And so I think that's a great partnership that I see coming together very quickly in support of local training through UAMS. And so that's a big deal. We're also kind of going back to construction, but project-wise, we're developing an industrial chem lab on our East Campus, which means that our chemistry lab over there is going to have the same equipment that you're going to find in these plant chem labs. And that means that we'll be able to not only train students in an associate degree in that path under industrial engineering tech, but also bring back incumbent workers. And that gives mobility, job mobility, and economic mobility to people that start at different places at the plant. And so I'm very excited about those two projects, curriculum-wise. Otherwise, and she might not listen to this, I don't know, she's going to listen to this. My CFO tells me I'm not allowed to have any more construction for a while. So, otherwise she'll retire. But, yeah.
Understandable. Certainly understandable. One of the things that, so little quick background on me. I grew up on a red dirt road in East Texas. I grew up on a farm, and there were a bunch of us. And so education was not important at my house. We were expected, and I say we as in the grandkids, right? My cousins and I. We were expected to graduate high school if we could, and then go to work. That was, matter of fact, we should have already been working for 3 or 4 or 5 years by the time we graduated high school. I got my first job when I was 13, chunking watermelons for $3 an hour, and I thought I was the richest man on the planet. I mean, that was the first time I was ever able to buy all my own school clothes. Nobody could tell me I couldn't have those shoes because I was paying for them. Also, no one could tell me I couldn't have that shirt because I was paying for it. So it's the first time I ever bought my own school clothes. But and I still had enough money for all the Hank Williams Jr. cassette tapes and Copenhagen that a kid could dip. So
I'll applaud the Hank Williams Jr.
Unfortunately, I am the son of a professional ball player, and my dad was a professional baseball player. So and then became a professional bowler when he got custody of me, and he's like, okay, I can't travel all over the world playing baseball now. And so I learned how to chew tobacco at 8. I was 8 years old when I started chewing tobacco. And finally, at 52, I quit. And so, I've been 2+ years now. And the only thing I really miss is that wad in my jaw. I just liked having that, and I don't know why, but I did. And but anyway, I even asked about going to college when I was freshman and sophomore in high school, and that got shut down real quick. And I was told, if you decide that's what you want to do, then you will be on your own.
You would have been first generation.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You'll be on your own. What you need to do is think about what you want to do as far as work. Well, I'm sorry, freshman in high school, I was 14. I was only a few years removed from wanting to be a spaceman or a cowboy, right? So I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I knew I didn't want to be a farmhand the rest of my life.
Right.
In high school, I did get a job with Coca-Cola. I loved it. I loved working at Coca-Cola. But I didn't want to just stay there as a warehouse hand either. And that was going to be basically my only options, was either drive a route truck, which would have been fine, but that was a young man's game. That was not something I could have seen myself doing for 30 more years. So college was out. Finally, my junior year of high school, I had one of my teachers. Matter of fact, I had a co-op class where we left early to go to work. And I had that teacher reach out to Universal Technical Institute in Houston to have them send a recruiter. And he came and made a whole presentation for our class. And then he came and had dinner at my house that evening. And I signed up then. I wanted to go to.
Watch your hand because you're flipping off the camera.
Oh. You know, if anybody gets offended by that, they'll get over it. So,
I better tell them.
Yeah. I signed up then because I knew I had to do something beyond high school. And there are still family members in my family today who will tell you, yeah, Sandy thinks he's something better than the rest of us because he went to school after high school. I never thought that. I never, ever thought that. I did go to Universal Technical Institute for air conditioner, refrigeration, electrical. And I would work during the day from 7 a.m. to 1. I was stood in a Pennzoil oil change pit, and I changed oil. And at 1 o'clock, I would get off. I had my change of clothes in the truck. I'd drive 45 minutes across Houston to start class at 2. And I was in class till 10 every night. And then I would drive home over back to Katy and do the whole routine again. I did graduate with a 4.0. I did learn a very valuable line of work and then immediately put that to work. I first went to work for a company called Trans World International, who owned at that time all the Denny's restaurants, and they owned a vending company called Canteen Food and Vending. And I worked for Canteen doing the refrigerated maintenance on their machines. Coca-Cola called me, the one I worked at in high school, and said, hey, now that you're out of school and you have some experience doing this, do you want to come to work in our refrigerated vending department? And I was like, sure. I get to move back home, and so I did. And then it was funny. My boss walks over to me one day, and he says, it's slow. It's wintertime. There's not a lot of stuff breaking down, you know. And he says, you ever thought about trying your hand at sales? And I said, no, sir. And he said, you grew up here. You're kin to half the county. And he said, you obviously don't have a problem talking. I don't think he meant that as a compliment. But he said, I'd like to train you and let you do some sales. So I went through some training with Coca-Cola. Intense. Very intense training. You have to remember also, this was at the height of the Cola Wars, you know, so it was us versus them, right?
Should have been no problem selling Coca-Cola.
Right. Yeah, the problem was, there wasn't a problem, but the challenge was I wasn't actually selling Coca-Cola. What I was selling were the non-beverage items that go along with it. So if you had a convenience store and you see those styrofoam cups, I'm selling the cups, the lids, the straws, the machine itself that mixes the drink, the ice maker that makes the ice. Those were the things I was selling. But I figured out I had made more money in my first 2 days of sales than I made in 2 weeks over in the refrigerated maintenance department. Well, that doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, you know. So I eventually, a guy I went to high school with, his dad was opening a radio station in this little bitty town in DeSoto Parish, Louisiana called Logansport. The station had a huge signal, but it was just located in this town of less than 1,000 people. And he offered me some sweat equity if I would come over. And he was like, look, I can do anything that needs to be done for a radio group.
Yeah.
my weakest link is sales. He said, I can do it. It's just, I'm not very efficient. I'm not very good. And I've got other stuff I need to really be doing, especially getting one started and off the ground. And he said, he offered me some sweat equity. And he said, here's the thing. We have a huge signal. We will eventually become a thorn in the side to the big boys in Shreveport. And somebody's going to come in and way overpay us for this station. And I was like, how long do you think that'll take? He said, 3 years, 2 to 3 years. Well, it took 7.
Wow.
But eventually someone did come in and way overpay us for that radio station. And there began my radio career, and that's how I ended up here.
What an interesting transition.
Right. You know, I went from picking purple hulls to, playing music on the radio. I mean, it just, but funny, all that training in air conditioning, refrigeration, electrical really seems to play out real well in radio when you have a transmitter go off the air.
I was going to say that skill set probably applies just as frequently now as it did, when you were in the field.
And incidentally, if you want to get sound from a microphone to something else, it follows all the same principles that electricity follows, right? So with ohms and amperage and voltage and resistance, and so all of those things kind of just. So I sit here today at 54, and I close my eyes and I say, thank you. You knew long before I ever knew where I needed to be and what I needed to be and what I needed to do. And
so you were lucky. You got in the right place at the right time.
Well, again, I actually attribute more of it to divine intervention than luck. I literally last night, and I should have, I didn't. I nearly said to my wife last night, I remember when I used to pray for the things I have now. I used to pray for the life I have now. That's humbling. Yeah. That's very humbling. I shared with my Facebook friends last Friday that I have been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And my phone has blown up since then, of course, and people with just the most kind things to say, and so far I haven't had anyone like, yeah, well, I hope you die.
No.
Now that lady that I read her letter earlier, she might not feel the same way, but I was telling a guy, he called me this morning, and I said, look, man, my thing is I either trust God or I don't, and I can't say I trust God and then worry. That just it's diametrically opposed to who I am, and so I'm like, I can't. It's beyond me to worry about it. And I said, and here's the thing: if, like I said the other day, there's a scripture in Job that says, yet though he slay me, I will trust him. Right. So even if this is a death sentence and I'm going to die from prostate cancer, I've lived a good life. I have 6 of the best kids. College wasn't an option for me, but my 3 oldest all have bachelor's degrees. Matter of fact, my oldest,
and the JD.
Yeah, she's about to graduate law school in a couple weeks. My middle son is getting his master's this December, and is a teacher of all things. He's a teacher, and I'm very, very blessed. So I say all of that whole story when I said, let me give you a little background on me to say that. We don't all go to the same path to get to where we are. Someone last week told me, man, I'm sorry you had to live your life like that, talking about growing up with a single dad. I'm not. First of all, yeah, looking back, it probably was not the best way to raise a kid, but I got to be with my dad all the time, which I loved. Number 2, my dad was a good dad. He loved me. Now parents didn't say it, back then.
Right.
We're Gen X. It made us uncomfortable, I think, if our parents told us they loved us. It was like, I love you, because the only time we would ever hear that is, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. And that's never. I don't think that was ever true. No, it's 100% true. But we don't all take the same path. But like I told that person last week, I said, look, I am where I am because I've been where I've been. Yeah. And I am where I am because I'm going where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so I like the fact that at South Arkansas College, y'all haven't forgotten that East Campus.
No.
And that's where I was going with that whole thing.
It's important.
So where I grew up, there was a little junior college, community college in the county where I grew up. And it pretty much started as a VOTEC.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I remember when they were turning out cosmetology degrees, just one after another. And then they took on nursing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I remember back in the late 80s thinking, there can't be a need for that many nurses. Oh, but there was. And there still is, But also, they had welding and they this and this and this. But as that college has grown, I've noticed that all the growth has been way away from the VOTEC side. It's all been on the educational side. And granted, some of those things are needed, but at the same time, you think the welding world hadn't changed? Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. How much has this thing changed?
How much last year?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. It's changed the way I watch movies, and here's what I mean by that. I absolutely nearly refuse to watch a movie that involves technology if it was made before 2007. And here's why. If you didn't have an iPhone, you're guessing at what technology could do. I'm just thinking there's no credibility to me with that. I remember I got into the show, the Fox series 24, Kiefer Sutherland. Mm-hmm. I got into it after it was already off the air. Mm-hmm. And I started watching it, and they were flip phones when they first started. Oh, yeah. And then I remember when they finally went to an iPhone, and I was like, now we're up to date. It's just hard for me to give it credibility. But think about how much your phone has changed in the last 15, 20 years. You think welding hasn't changed? I mean, the process is still the same. You still say hello and you hang up. You still say hello and goodbye. But what all happens in that process has changed.
And the potential.
Yes, exactly. Same with welding, same with E&I, same with all of those things is that, so I've always been very proud that that South Arkansas College has not neglected that side. And I was over at the East Campus.
And we never will.
Yeah.
I mean, that is those are jobs. Those are careers. They're not jobs. Jobs are what you do to make money. These are careers. This is what you do to have a life.
That's right.
And that's what those are. Those are career and technical programs. That's advancement.
Exactly. Let's take a break.
Okay.
All right, we'll take a break. We're going to hear from some of our sponsors, and we will come back with more of Off the Back Porch right after this.
When it comes to your family's financial future, peace of mind matters. At Harrison Financial Management, they are right here to help you plan, grow, and protect what matters most. Whether you're planning for retirement, investing wisely, or securing your family's future, they will guide you every step of the way. Harrison Financial Management, your future, their commitment.
Everybody loves a parade, and Hilarious Pizza throws parades all week long. Bring the family in for your favorites, or explore the variety that Hilarious Pizza offers. Come join us at Hilarious Pizza for the greatest parade ever.
When it comes to protecting your home or business, trust the name that's been serving South Arkansas for 3 generations, Cross Roofing and Sheet Metal. From residential roofs to large commercial projects, the experienced team at Cross delivers quality you can see and reliability you can count on. Cross Roofing and Sheet Metal, built on trust, proven by results. Call Cross Roofing today. Put a solid future over your head.
Experience, courage, common sense. All of these are traits we want in any elected position, but especially in the man we will pick as our next sheriff. Michael Fife hasn't just been in law enforcement for 30 plus years. He's the one who answers the call in the middle of the night, putting himself last and Union County first, looking folks in the eye, doing what's right, standing up for all of us. Vote for Michael Fife for Union County Sheriff.
Hey, welcome back for more of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. And again, Boomer had to step out a little early for us today. And stepping in and doing a much better job, I might add, is Dr. Stephanie Tully-Dartez from South Arkansas College, who's our special guest this week. And we'll talk some more about some of the things you have going on at the college. We get letters also from people asking for advice. Now, why they ask advice from Boomer and from me, I will never know. But they do ask for advice. So this one starts off a little differently. It didn't say Dear Sandy Boomer. It's just Dear Sirs. My kid has played baseball for years and absolutely loves it. This season, they tried out for a more competitive team and didn't make it. They were crushed. They came home asking what they did wrong and if the coach, quote unquote, just didn't like them. And now I'm stuck. Part of me wants to protect their confidence and say the coach made a bad call, but the other part of me knows they're probably not at that level yet. So now I'm torn. Do I tell them the coach was wrong and keep their spirits up, or do I have an honest conversation that maybe they need to improve? I don't want to kill their love for the game, but I also don't want to set them up with false expectations. Signed, torn between truth and consequences. And so the first thing I noticed, Truth, was you're writing to two guys who obviously have a conservative tilt to their beliefs and you use they them through the entire letter. I just noticed it. I don't know if there's anything to that. It's strange to me. Secondly, you 100% be honest with your kid. Listen, I have either been playing, coaching, or umpiring for 49 years. I started when I was 5 years old. I am the son of a professional baseball player. Baseball runs in my DNA. Only maybe of all the teams I ever played on, only twice was I ever the best player on that team. And I knew it. I knew it. And here's the thing, your kid knows it too. Your kid knows that they didn't have the same arm or the same batting or the same speed or the same glove or whatever it was that the other kids on that trying out for that team had. So don't lie to him or her, whomever. Don't lie to the child because they know. Here's what happens, in my opinion, if you tell them, oh, well, that coach just blew it. That coach made a bad decision. One, I think you can plant the seed of, well, then why should I try? It's stacked against me. And that breeds that aloofness that I hope we're trying to get out of kids and not instill in them. And two, I think it plants a seed in them that they know that they can't trust you. They can't trust your judgment. If you lie to them and be like, oh, you should have made that team, baby. And listen, I know your child is a snowflake and they are special in every way, and there's never been one like them and there'll never be another one like them again. But that kid knows that he or she was not as good as the other kids. And, you know, for all the years I made All-Stars, it was only because they took two off of our team. It wasn't because I was the best. I was just one of the top two. But of all the times I ever played, I can only remember maybe two teams where I was ever the best player we had. My son, my oldest son, he was never the best player on my team, ever. He made All-Stars every year. You know why? Because he was smart and he hustled. And he knew the game in and out, frontwards and backwards. He could think baseball. He could think 3 steps ahead. And he knew he had to because he didn't have the talent. He didn't have the natural God-gifted ability to be, you know, and that's what happened with me. Like in high school especially, I would be like, I'm not fast enough to react when this ball's hit. I have to know where it's going to go beforehand. And so I would look and I would think about the pitcher that we had on the mound, and I would think about that batter in the box. I would look at his stance. I'd look at his hands. I'd look at his ankles. Ankles always told me a lot. Those kids who climbed in the batter's box with little bitty thin ankles, they couldn't churn on the ball as much as a guy who had a beefy lower body. And there was just all those little things, and I would know where I would need to move. Coaching my teams, I would step out of the dugout, somebody, hey, 4 steps. And they'd, run over there, and I'm perfect. And I'd go back in the dugout, and next ball hit, and they'd never move their feet and just catch it. And then one of my coaches asked me one time, he said, man, how do you do that? And I was like, I had to. I had to know where the ball's going to go because I wasn't fast enough to make up any ground if I misjudged it. And that was my son. He knew he had to think ahead of time. So that's why he was never the best player on my team, ever. I can't think of a team that I had that he was absolutely hands down the best player.
But something that we talk about often at the college and something that I personally believe is an important philosophy in education is that there is so much learning and growth that can happen from failure, and then encouraging the work the strategy, the prioritization, because in the end, you've only got so much effort and time in your life. So make sure that if you didn't like failing, that it's enough of a priority that you're willing to put in the work, that you're willing to literally drive a hole through the plywood to get to the pitcher's mound. And if it's not a priority, then reframe your thinking and identify a new one to fail at least a few times before you find success.
That's right.
Because that is the most valuable lesson you can learn is this time it didn't work and now I have to know why. And usually the reason isn't, and you should never use it as a default that it was somebody else's fault.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Never say that you didn't get picked, because all that does is take away their sense of I can do better.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, listen, there are times where there are things that are just not your fault. That's just out of your control. And I get it.
Fair enough.
I get it. But those should be a very, very rare exception and not the rule. And I don't think this is going to come as a surprise to you, as it doesn't to me or to anyone who's watching. We have a work ethic problem locally. We have an issue with not everyone, obviously, not even the majority, but we do have people with a poor work ethic that their failures they want to blame on everyone else, whereas there's no personal inventory being taken there. There's no personal accountability being taken there. We have got to do better at customer service. And when I was on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce, I preached this and harped this every day, every time we had a board meeting. We have to do better with customer service, because guess what? The first impression of our town is that lady who's clerking at the front desk at that hotel. That's the first impression. And that convenience store or that fast food place, those are your first impressions.
Yeah.
And if you get a site selection crew comes in and they get crappy service at the hotel and crappy service at the restaurant and crappy attitudes, you're battling uphill already. And it begins there.
Yeah.
And how does that begin? It begins with me. And that begins with, look, no one is saying that you should go out there and kill yourself for a minimum wage job.
Right.
But what I am saying is, and I've proven this time and time and time again, not just in my life, but when I tell other people this, they've proven it to themselves. If you make $30,000 a year and you want to make 50, work like you make 50 and watch what happens. It's happened every single time in my life. The first radio station I ever worked at, my first year there, my W-2 showed $19,100. And I said, I have got to make $40,000 next year. So I worked like I made $40,000. Well, I didn't make 40 that year. I made 38. And then...
It's double.
Yes. The next year, I said 50. I got to work like I make 50. I didn't make 50. I made 67. And we're talking about in the very early 90s. That was a lot of money. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, that first year, a lot of my paychecks bounced. I mean, it was tough. It was tough. But somehow, through the grace of God, we made it. But it was, if you work like you, again, if you make 30, you want to make 50, work like you make 50. Watch what happens. That's where it starts. It starts with, am I giving this my best? Well, my company listen, I know. I have firsthand experience of showing up early, leaving late, working my butt off, watching the numbers grow, only to be turned around and be like, hit the door. And so I get it. I do. But something in me will not let me do less than my best. Now, my best today may not be the same as my best tomorrow.
Right.
Because I woke up on this day with a headache, or I got bad news on my way to work, or I got outside and realized my battery was dead and I had to jump it off, or the kids left a bicycle under the carport and I had to get it out of the way, or as I'm pulling out of the driveway, I realize, today's trash day and I have to rush back in and get the trash. My best today may not be the same as my best tomorrow. But can I look at the end of the day and say, hey, I earned my money today?
Yeah.
That's where it starts. And I think that's where, and so for a while there, the chamber had a kind of a program where they were doing some customer service training, if you will, because it's more than just being nice to people.
Yes.
It's about really hearing them and listening and
putting yourself in their position and trying to think through what they need to have, what they need to know, what they need to hear.
Okay, dear Sandy and Boomer, I love the podcast. It's really one of the things that I look forward to each week. I tried to get my 23-year-old son to watch it with me. He said he had seen it before, and it was like, quote, watching the History Channel argue with TikTok, end quote. Ned in Parker's Chapel. Well, Ned, he's pretty much right. Yeah, I can't disagree with what your son said. Sandy and Boomer, I hope you both realize that every time you refer to something saying back in my day, you realize that back in your day, Pluto was actually still a planet. Mike and Magnolia. Yeah, Mike.
It hasn't been that long. Some of us will never forget. Pluto will always be our planet.
Pluto will always be a planet to me. That's right. Sandy and Boomer, I described your podcast by saying every episode feels like Thanksgiving dinner where no one's allowed to leave the table. Andrea in El Dorado. Well, Andrea, at least you're at the grown folks table. Yeah. So, Sandy and Boomer, I am amazed that people write you asking for advice. Seriously. That's like saying, I'm really hungry for sushi. Let me go down to the gas station. Sign Nate and Warren. Nate, you and me both. Let me just put that out there. I don't understand why they ask us for advice either. Let's see. Sandy and Boomer, I 100% agree. Boomer's reactions are the real MVP. Half the time he looks like he just realized who he agreed to do a podcast with. Kayla in Magnolia. Thanks, Kayla. Dear Sandy and Boomer, y'all talk like someone who's been right twice and never got over it. Zach in El Dorado. Oh, man. Sandy and Boomer, I was watching your podcast last weekend and my son-in-law was in the shop with me. We were just drinking beers and watching it rain. Your podcast was on the big screen TV and going in the background. He says, you know, this is less of a podcast and more like how not to start an argument. James in Junction City. James, he's right. He's absolutely right. Sandy and Boomer, I don't always agree with you, but I do enjoy wondering how you got there. Malachi in Monticello. Sandy and Boomer, y'all ever notice Sandy says, I'm just saying, like he didn't just say something completely unhinged? Sydney in Magnolia. I mean, Sydney, I'm just saying. Dear Sandy and Boomer, I don't care what other people say. I give y'all 5 stars. I mean, where else can I find 2 grown men so confidently wing it for just hours upon hours? Anthony in Homer. Yeah, Anthony, thanks. You're right. We do wing it a lot. It's actually, we say that. We take that joke all the time, but the people would be amazed if they knew what kind of prep actually goes into putting this podcast together each week. And again, as evidenced, hey, I've got these dates available if you want to come. And you're like, yeah, I mean, we have to start that. Next week, as a matter of fact, our special guest is Colt Shelby, who is running for governor. He is the Libertarian candidate for governor. I first became aware of him when Rex Nelson was our guest, and Rex was talking about him, and so reached out to him and asked if he would like to come and be on the podcast, and he said absolutely, and so he's going to be our guest next week. In a couple of weeks, we have local candidate for Sheriff Michael Fife is going to come in on the podcast, so we've got some really great guests lined up in the near future.
Thrilled they got on before the politicians.
Yeah, because from pretty much, I mean, it won't be all politicians, but, especially the closer we get to November, we do feel, I mean, as a matter of fact, one of the packages that we sell to political advertisers is we will give you a segment on the podcast at some point. And so we hope they all take advantage of that, and looking forward to it. Of course, we have a big debate coming up in the fall that we're going to put on. We have agreement from U.S. Senator Tom Cotton that he will come, and his opponent, Hallie Schaffner, will be here to debate him. The first time in anything that I can find where El Dorado has hosted a U.S. Senate debate. And
that's an exciting event.
That's going to be a big deal. We're also hoping, we have some tentative agreements, but we're hoping that we have Governor Sanders and her 2 opponents come as well. We are looking forward to that. We'll have plenty of local races that are going to happen. The biggest next thing we have is coming up June 4th. We have Chuck Barrett, the voice of the Razorbacks, who is going to, I think for the last 19 years, has been the voice of the Razorbacks. He's going to come and do an event called Calling the Hogs, and stories from the booth, and just the things that, the behind-the-scenes stuff that the casual fan probably never knows or never sees. And he and Rex Nelson are going to do that. We're going to put that on at First Financial, over at First Financial Music Hall at MAD, and it's going to be a catered event. It's going to be first class and nice. I think it's going to be a great event. Looking forward to that, and I think that's going to be one of those things to where I'm hoping that people will look at us as South Arkansas Now and realize the debate we put on back in the spring, our election night coverage, our weather coverage, this event, that they'll look at it and realize that we're trying to put together first-class events for people to have, some other entertainment. And Lord knows I go to and love the concerts that we have at MAD, but I also know that, just as many people, they may not be into music or that artist, but this is Arkansas, and just about everyone knows how to call the Hogs. So we're looking forward to that. And how can you go wrong when we have someone like Rex Nelson, who's just, a consummate professional broadcaster who will come in and kind of guide the chat that night. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And
he's always a fun speaker, and he's an institution. So.
Well, of course. I told him when he was here, I said, Rex, you're a walking cornucopia of Arkansas information and history, and he is. I mean, he truthfully is, and just if he had never studied history, just the things he's lived through, having been, with Mike Huckabee at the governor's mansion, and having been a Washington correspondent with the Democrat Gazette, having been appointed by President Bush to the Delta Regional Authority. Rex is just such a great guy. I mean, Rex was the one who, 20 years ago, I guess, really changed my mindset on economic development. And when I heard him give a speech about, you've got to quit trying to recruit the next big factory. You've got to stop. If those are out there and you are legitimately in that hunt, sure. But quit spending all your time and energy and your finite amount of finance running around chasing those, when what you really need to be doing is trying to grow your community 20 jobs at a time, 15 jobs at a time. And I listened intently to that speech, and he had a lot of great ideas, and it changed. And I happened at that time to be the vice president in charge of economic development at the chamber, and it changed the way I thought and the way I looked at things and the way I asked questions and the things that they would ask for approval on, and I would say, hold on, I got questions. And and I know I caught some more than my share of eye rolls and stuff, but if you can't answer these questions for me, how are you going to answer them to that site selection committee? So it really did change the way that I view economic development. Another thing was, in 2012, I was having a discussion with a guy, and I said something about the level of success that my company had enjoyed at that point. And he said, I've heard you say that a couple times, and the numbers were there in front of us. And he said, I'm just looking back. He said, you basically have 10% growth over 10 years. And he said, I don't call that success. And I was like, okay. I said, I get that. I said, now, what you're looking at is gross revenue. I said, what you're failing to look at is cash flow. I said, cash flow is 300% in 10 years. I said, but all that aside, I said, I understand the dilemma you're in. That is, you feel like there's someone who could do my job cheaper. And I said, and you're right. I am well compensated for what I do. I said, but let me lay it to you like this. There's not a radio group in America who wouldn't give their eye teeth for that sheet to have 10% growth over the last 10 years. I said, especially when you consider that our biggest money maker is our country music station, right? He's like, yeah. I said, we are in a minority majority community. I said, we are in an economically depressed rural area. I said, when I moved to El Dorado, there were 3 places you could buy a boat. I said, today there's none. I said, when I moved to El Dorado, there were 3 places you could buy a 4-wheeler. Today there's none. Now there is one now back today, but that time there was none. I said, since I've been here, we've lost our 4 largest employers. There were 4 furniture stores that used to be here that are no longer here. There were 7 different places you could buy a cell phone in El Dorado. I said, today we're down to 2. And I said, what does all that matter? All of those places I talked about are local radio advertisers. And I said, and yet with that, we've enjoyed 10% growth over 10 years and a 300% increase in cash flow. And I said, so my contract says I have to give you 60 days notice. So this is day 1. Oh, no, that's not what I want to say. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. I said, it's fine. I said, this is day 1. And I said, but do me this favor. If your pride will let you, next year at this time when you're holding this same meeting and you look at those numbers, I want you to look down at them and say, damn, Sandy was right. I said, because I promise you they're going to be a whole lot different next year than they are this year. And that's not what I want. I said, it is. And it's okay. It's fine. And that was that. And I've had people question my sanity about South Arkansas Now. I said, you started from the ground up a media and advertising company in El Dorado? I mean, and I was like, yeah, why not? And, you know, are we setting the world on fire financially? No. Matter of fact, I haven't drawn a paycheck in almost 2 years. And that's okay. That's what I kind of expected. But are we a lot further along than I thought? Oh, boy, are we. We're a whole lot further along than I thought we would be at this point. And it feels good. We feel like we're filling a void that I'm not even sure any of us actually realized was there. And it feels good. It feels good to serve our community. And, you know, my guys can tell you that I tell them, I said, look, we don't play gotcha games with questions. We're not investigative journalists. That's not what we do. I've actually caught some hell from people like, why didn't you ask this question, that question? That's not my job. What I'm doing is I go and I cover an event and I just tell you what happened. And I know it sounds cliche. We report, you decide, but that's what we do. I mean, and believe it or not, people like that.
Yeah.
they don't want my opinion or my bias in it or anyone else's. They like to just know what happened.
People are smarter than we often give them credit for.
Most of the time they are.
Give them plain information and go with that.
Exactly. And you know, one of those times was a city council meeting where you addressed the council. And well, you should have asked the council this and asked them that. I don't ask the council anything. I may go to them after a council meeting and say, hey, can you expound on what you said earlier? And they're like, are you going to print it? I said, yeah. No, I said what I said. You know. Yeah. Okay, I'll give them that. But we're not investigative journalists. We don't play gotcha games. We don't get people with the sole purpose of embarrassing them.
Right.
And there, you know, if that's what you're looking for, there's some sites out there about El Dorado that do that. There's some Facebook groups out there that's their whole job, is they want to embarrass people. They want to call people liars. Do I wish there was more transparency? Yes, absolutely I do. Do I believe that there is a criminal conspiracy? No, I don't. If I did believe that, believe me, I would follow that. But I also told them, I said, I don't want booking photos. I don't, you know, that's the low-hanging fruit. Yeah, you can get a lot of clicks. You can get tons of clicks and shares if you constantly put up booking photos. But is that who we want to be? Is that what we want to represent? There's enough good goes on in our community that we can talk about those things.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to ignore a news story, you know, because it might shine a negative light. We're not. That would be irresponsible. But we're also not going to go out there and try to dig up something that isn't really there.
Right.
You know, we're not snipe hunting. Is you know, and you being from South Carolina, you know all about snipe hunting. So there's plenty of things like live streaming the parade, the Christmas parade. There's people who aren't going to make it. They're just not. No one's going to stay home because we're live streaming it. Okay, if you want to go to the parade, you're going to go.
No. But if you're home because it's raining.
But if you're home because it's raining or it's just so freaking cold or you have a sick child or whatever the deal may be, you still get to watch the parade, right?
Absolutely.
Academic signing day. We live stream academic signing day. Not everyone can go to that, you know. Right. As a matter of fact, I remember some years where each student only had X amount of passes. That's how many people could get in. So we live stream it so that anyone who wants to watch it can. We'll live stream graduation again this year for El Dorado.
Good.
We live stream the football games. All those things, because those are good things that are going on in our community, and we want people to see it and be involved and know more about it. We live streamed our political debate that we had, and I caught so much hell over that because, it's a ticketed event now, and only certain people going to be able to go. It was never, ever, ever about certain people.
Anybody can watch it.
That's right. My thing is we can only fit so many in that venue, and that was, we talked about it last week with Dean Morrison, who has Madhouse 101, and I told him, I said, Dean, it was 7, 8, 9 months before the election when we worked that deal out to have it. He said, yeah. And I was like, we didn't know if there was going to be one race or 10 races, if there's going to be one candidate on each side or there's going to be 4 candidates on each side for the primary. We didn't know.
You just needed to book a place.
We just had to have a place. That's right. And we needed to have that, done ahead of time. And boy, I sure called it for that. And I mean, people that I think would know better, people I think would know me better, were calling me up and like, how dare you put on this event and just the elites? I said, man, it's not about the elites. I don't know where you're getting that. Well, somebody said, somebody on Facebook said that. That's not what it was at all. For example, we gave each candidate 10 tickets. You can get 10 people, whomever you want, to come. Our sponsors got 10 tickets each, and they could bring whoever they wanted. And, there was one person that called me and said, I really would like to come, but I don't have a ticket. And I don't feel comfortable approaching any of the candidates because this person's job, they report news. And I said, I got you. I will have you a ticket at the door.
Right.
And because you shouldn't have to then end up being beholden to someone for giving you a ticket. But
there's a beauty in that neutrality.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you, I'm tickled to not have to put a bias or an opinion in. I've written one opinion article for South Arkansas Now in the year and a half that it's been a thing, and that one opinion article was to hopefully calm some of the rhetoric and the fear mongering about Murphy USA when Murphy USA had their layoff. And for those 113 people that were laid off, it wasn't a small deal. But in the overall, that's a very, very small percentage of the number of employees they have. And, there was the whole, they're moving, they're going to leave town. And I had to write an op-ed for that. And I'm sure I'll write another one at some point. But I like not having to have an opinion and just do what we do. And JW right now is working on a story that's going to be... It's going to be hard. It's a tough story. There's been a couple of times where he's reached out to me and said, "Man, I'm crying. I'm literally crying while I'm doing this because it's tough." And I told him, I said, "Look, all I'm asking you to do is let this guy tell his story. We're not gonna fact check him. We're not going to say, oh, but." I said, "Let him have his story, and at the end of the day, I don't want to become his advocate, and I don't want to become his enemy. So let's just let him tell his story." And I say I'm excited. I guess anxious. I'm more anxious to see this story when it comes out because from everything JW's told me leading up to this, it's been hard. And I think that's what we're here for. Yeah. To help. Maybe we can help someone get that closure by venting about something that's going on or something that's happening, and without becoming their advocate. Right. And so we'll see where that goes. I also love. I mean, you know this. I love Heath at the college. Heath he makes sure that I'm plugged in. He makes sure that I'm involved. To a fault.
Hey, that's his job.
That is his job, and he does it well. And he
I appreciate you responding to a last minute call for press the other day.
That was
thank you.
Funny. Yeah, because let me tell you, that was a literally throw myself together Because my office.
Hey, you made it.
I did. My office is in my house. It used to be the baby room, the baby nook, off of the master, and now it's my office. And you know, I'm there in shorts and a t-shirt, unshaven, and you know, the only thing I do when I wake up, no matter what my day is planned, is brush my teeth.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to do that, but I had my teeth brushed. But as far as, I mean, I may have still had bedhead. I don't know. And he's like, hey, I know this 10 minutes from now, but is there any way you could be here for an event? I'm like, sure. You know?
Well, and we certainly appreciate it because we want local press coverage. And it wasn't our event, but it's like, wait a second, you know what? We need folks here. So we'll start making our calls.
You know, and
in the true El Dorado way.
That was, to me, that was a perfect example of an old way of thinking. Well, we told the Democrat Gazette. Okay. And it's just like I had to have the conversation with our local mayor, with Paul. He's like, we'll get this out to the newspaper to make sure that everybody knows. And so I went to him and I said, Paul, I know your ass is old. And I said, but you've got more than just the El Dorado News Times here. You know, when y'all are sending that email out, do you mind, you know, CCing me on that? Or someone in my company, I don't care who, but let us know. Yeah, you know, I didn't think about it. I know. And that's why we're having this conversation.
and that's that's the difference. Having that conversation and changing the future.
Yes.
As opposed to
and
resentful.
Believe me, that guy who was there for that event that day, now I get everything from his office. I mean, you know, he's going to be out for coffee from 10:45 to 11. You know, I mean, it's everything.
Hey, that's great.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like we can learn and we can grow. Mistakes can happen.
Yes.
We can have failures and then we grow from them.
Well, funny, he's went on to tour around the state doing that. And, well, I'm not going to get to that. He went around touring the state. Well, now I'm finding out they're researching these communities ahead of time to see if there's a South Arkansas Now in that community, not us specifically, but someone who does what we do in that community, and making sure they're involved.
Yeah.
And reaching out to them.
Great.
And look, I'm not. This isn't a oh, look how wonderful we are fest, but we have 60,000 unique visitors a month to South Arkansas Now. The News Times has 2,200 subscribers. I'm not saying that makes us better or worse or anything. I'm just like, there's the difference.
And it creates diversity in the ways that people are accessing their news, which is great. We need all of the different ways
Absolutely.
to access the information. And I do appreciate the fact that you've got a good mix in there with long form content, because you're right. The good news, the happy news, isn't always going to catch a headline or be that photo on social media. But the long form content, the people that are willing to listen are going to hear all of the good that is happening in South Arkansas. And that's just great.
Well, thank you. We, we really feel like, I know for me, I don't want to click on an article and then it be 8 pages. I don't know. I'm out. If you can't tell me in 300 to 500 words, I'm probably going to tune you out at some point. And so we try to keep our articles just short and to the point. And, you know, if it requires a backstory, a lot of times what we try to do is refer you to the story itself and not retell the whole story within that story.
Right.
And but this is where people are, and if they can't find it here, they may not be reading it at all. And you know, I have people tell me all the time, said, "Man, you've wrecked my Facebook feed." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "I don't even have to search for y'all anymore. I don't ever have to go into my phone and say find, you know, I don't go to Facebook."
Meta has learned.
Yeah, I don't go to Facebook and type in South Arkansas Now. When I open my Facebook, 9 times out of 10, y'all are the first thing I see. And hey, thank you. We appreciate that. Our social media presence has been unexplainable. It's, I mean, my partner Grant and I, we've both gotten calls from all over the nation with people saying, "How are you in a town of 18,000 people with 3.5 million views on Facebook? How?" teach us that. And we can't teach it. It's organic. That's the whole thing. And that's what no one seems to understand is y'all have figured it out. Well, yes, I've made a career out of learning Facebook's algorithms. And when they change them, it takes me a little while, but I figure them out. I can find them again. But that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is purely organic, and it gets shared, and things that go viral just blow me away at how did that go viral? You know, we've only had a handful of things that went viral, but when they do, it's wild because then I get phone calls from a newspaper in another state that's like, hey, did you write this story, blah, blah? Yeah. Well, you mentioned so-and-so, and they're from here, and would you like to do an interview with us? I said, I don't know anything about them. That'd be a waste of your time and mine.
Yeah.
I get calls from radio stations. They're like, hey, we read this article. And, there's stations in Wyoming and stuff. And like, would you like to be a guest and talk about, just over the phone? And I'm like, sure, we can do that. So that's the kind of stuff, and our social media presence makes that possible. To me, what I like is we have that great social media presence that we can now go to our clients. We had a client recently that we've been trying to get to advertise on South Arkansas Now, and they just didn't see it vision-wise. When they said, what we really need is we need more social media bump. I'm like, hey, guess what? No one locally, I promise you, can do what we can do social media-wise. Right. We can give you that bump organically. And so we did, and they're like, holy cow. We had, and now they're a client all the time at South Arkansas Now. So we were able to help them see the value in what we do.
That's great.
And that feels good too.
Yeah.
It feels good. So.
Well, you're serving a much needed area.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Again, there was evidently a vacuum there that I'm not sure any of us realized was there. But, when I go out and, now my sister knows that today is podcast day. I was tempted to answer it and put her on the spot, but I'm not going to. But, when there were wildfires last spring in Smackover, and, I'm out there, on camera following these wildfires, and then the next couple days later, I'm chasing tornadoes down, and I had a guy tell me, he said, I forgot what we lost. When you all left the radio station, he said, we knew back then if there was something going on, flip on the radio, y'all were covering it. From the explosion out at I almost said Amber Cable. Clean Harbors?
Clean Harbors.
Yeah, from the explosion at Clean Harbors to bad weather to whatever was going on, we knew we could just flip over there and I've forgotten that we had that, that's something we lost and didn't even realize. And he said, but now y'all are out here covering the wildfires and covering bad weather and chasing tornadoes. And he's like, I forgot how much we missed that and needed it, It's what we do, And, I tell people I started chasing tornadoes 32 years ago, and that's a young man's game.
We were just discussing that earlier. It is so scary how quickly they can pop up. I mean, I come from hurricane country. It's coming. It's going to last a long time. Yeah. But it's coming.
Yep. See, me too. Grew up in Houston. I mean, hurricanes, very real deal. So although I will say the only two I really remember from when I lived in Houston were Hurricane Allen, and the flooding was just unreal. And then in 1983, I believe it was Hurricane Alicia. And Alicia did some damage for us. It took our carport and distributed it throughout the neighborhood. And Daddy and I put up plywood over the windows before the hurricane. And then after the hurricane, we go to take them down, and there's actually pine needles that went through. They're stuck halfway through the plywood on both sides. And I was like, wow. And Daddy said, yeah, that's the kind of wind, And Alicia wasn't even that bad of a hurricane, but, it parked out over Houston for a while. And, we were without electricity 8 or 9 days. And the grocery stores down the street were basically just giving stuff away,
right?
Because it was going to go bad. And but yeah, hurricanes. I'm not big on hurricanes, and I like it here so that if a hurricane hits the Gulf, there's a good chance we'll get some rain out of it.
That's true.
Now, we did get our first, Arkansas did have its first hurricane
yes.
A couple years ago. And I told Boomer, I said, yeah, but you know what? And was it Laura? Was that the hurricane? Hurricane Laura?
I think so.
I said, but did you notice Laura slowed down when she came through Bernice? Mm-hmm. Everyone knows to slow down in Bernice.
I used to use it as a recruitment tool when I was talking to people about why they needed to come to South Arkansas College or why they needed to move to El Dorado. Is like, we only have one snow day a year. And ever since then, every other year, we have these ice storms. So I'm just going to stop using that as a recruitment technique because apparently it's no longer true.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and you can't say we never get hurricanes because we've actually had one now.
So. But you know what? There's a lot of other good things that are happening here and much better reasons to come to South Arkansas than the weather.
Yeah.
So
let's take another.
As it's rainy.
Hey, we need it.
Yeah.
We need it. So as horrible as it was walking a golf course Sunday, I'm still happy to do it because we need that. We needed that rain. Mm-hmm. I took my kids here a couple of weeks ago. They wanted to go fishing, so I said, let's just run over to Callion. We'll go over to Callion, let them get the hooks wet. We got out there and there's no water.
Low.
So I'm like, I cast for one of the kids at one point, and I'm casting 40, 50 feet out there, and the bobber's laying over. It won't even, it's not deep enough for the cricket to go all the way down, or the water's not deep enough for the bobber to stand up. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, holy cow. So, yeah, we needed rain, and this rain we're getting is a good thing. And, of course, we were under a burn ban for so long. And listen, which camera's hot? That one? Listen, under a burn ban means don't burn crap outside, people. Come on. I mean, we're under a burn ban. I drive by and there's a guy out there burning leaves. I'm like, you idiot.
There's your PSA for today?
Yeah, that's it. that's it. I'm like, come on, man. You've got to be smarter than that. We're under a burn ban. Yeah, but I'm standing here watching it. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You can watch fire all day. It doesn't mean you can stop it.
Yeah.
And because it's quicker than you think.
Yes.
And that's
absolutely.
That's the thing with tornadoes and fires is it doesn't matter what you can see. It's the fact of as that fire is burning right here, mm-hmm. the heat is drying out everything right here, and eventually this will now catch fire. That's what happened to me. I'm out there in that wildfire mm-hmm. last year, and I've got my camera set up on the hood of my truck, mm-hmm. and it's pointed at me, and I'm, talking about, we're hearing wildfires behind me, and all this, and the wind's blowing away from me, so I'm not worried at all. Next thing I know, as I'm looking over here, the fire starts on the other side of my truck, and it was just the heat mm-hmm. had dried it out long enough that it finally combusted.
Yep.
And that fire jumped the road. That's scary.
Absolutely.
I was like, I gotta go. So and getting out of there, you got to get out of there as quick as you can because that's, fire is so unpredictable. But anyway, we're going to take a break. We come back, We'll talk a little more about the college if that's okay.
That sounds great.
All right, we'll be back with more of Off the Back Porch right after this.
Non-stop phone calls, registered mail, repossessions, or threats of lawsuits from creditors, and it seems like no one is willing to let you hit pause and just catch your breath. You need the help of Robert Rushing and the Rushing Law Firm. Bankruptcy is not the end. It can be a chance for a fresh start. The Rushing Law Firm goes to work for you, letting you hit that pause button and start over. Call the Rushing Law Firm today at 870-875-2940 or stop by the office at 725 Northwest Avenue in El Dorado. The Rushing Law Firm.
Experience, courage, common sense, all of these are traits we want in any elected position, but especially in the man we will pick as our next sheriff. Michael Fife hasn't just been in law enforcement for 30 plus years. He's the one who answers the call in the middle of the night, putting himself last and Union County first, looking folks in the eye, doing what's right, standing up for all of us. Vote for Michael Fife for Union County Sheriff.
serving South Arkansas for 25 years, and all the while expanding and growing throughout the state. ProMed Ambulance is proving their motto of world-class care and hometown values. For example, their new mobile integrated healthcare communication center. This state-of-the-art facility allows communication specialists to work directly with local 911 call centers to ensure the closest medical team is always dispatched to any emergency. World-class care and hometown values. For more information and career opportunities, go to ProMedAmbulance.com.
What if I get in a fender bender?
State Farm's there with the assist.
Jersey swap?
Jersey swap.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
Oh, I'm feeling this.
I assisted with security things.
Swap.
I assisted with popcorn.
Swap.
Get that jersey.
Get your corn, Eric.
Hey, I assisted myself by filing a claim on the State Farm app.
Swap.
In my halftime show, I
It's
had
a great story.
We're done swapping. Too late, circus man.
State Farm with the assist.
Hey, welcome back for more of Off the Back. Isn't that some way to start? Welcome back for more of Off the Back. We're like Carol Burnett. You remember that thing? You're too young to remember Carol Burnett. So, anyway, welcome back for more of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. And again, Boomer had to step away a little early today. And, I was looking forward to talking to him about this because obviously he's older than I am. And so he remembers things that I just, that predate me, obviously. But this was things that did not exist in the 80s.
Okay.
And so being catfished, that didn't exist that I remember hearing about, You never heard anyone say, I can't find my phone.
It's true. It was on the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now, at one time, we did have a wireless one. Had the big long antenna you had to stretch out. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time we couldn't find it, but you could go over to the cradle and you could push a button and it would beep.
Mm-hmm. And whatever cushion it was under,
exactly,
you figured out.
Exactly. Yeah. Things that weren't said in the 80s. You can't smoke in here. You could smoke everywhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally at the hospital, people smoked in the hospital. So, you've been ghosted. That was just not something you ever heard. Binge watching. Because, back then, at least for us, I remember we got our first VCR. We went and, you rent a movie, you take home a movie and watch it, you take it back.
After you rewound it.
You better be sure, be kind, rewind. Mm-hmm. If not, they'll put you on that list by the door. These people are not kind. But there was no such thing as binge watching anything back then. Being triggered.
Okay. Yeah, that's a new one.
Texting. We passed notes in class, but there was no texting.
Mm-hmm.
Riding with your helmet on. When I was a kid, if in our little neighborhood, any kid ever rode up with a helmet on, we'd have made so much fun of them. We really would have. Mm-hmm. I know. Something else that you didn't hear in the 80s. I'd like a non-fat mocha, non-dairy whip, decaf cappuccino with oat milk, please. Not even a thing. Mm-hmm. Not even a thing. Finally, I need to see your ID before I can sell you these cigarettes. That was not... My best friend as a child was Ricky Allen, who lived across the street from me. And it was very common daily for he and I to walk to the local convenience store and him buy a pack of cigarettes for his mom and walk them back home. That was just...
It's a very different time.
And beer. I remember us buying beer at like 9 years old. Mm-hmm. It was just a thing.
So my 9-year-old was wandering around the other day, and I told him, it's like, when you leave the house, whether it's backyard or whatever, you need to tell me where you're going. And he was just in the backyard, and he's like, "Why do you need to know that, Mom?" And all I could think to tell him was, at one point when I was a child, there were advertisements that would tell you, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are? So now I feel compelled to know where my children are at any given point.
They had, our parents had to be reminded they had kids. Hey, by the way, you have kids, do you know where they are? I don't remember seeing them at supper.
And his response was, I have my tablet, so you could just use the app on the phone to track where I'm at.
Yes, exactly.
Like, no, we're not doing that.
There's still nothing wrong with that communication of, hey, I'm going here, and then we're going there. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Parenting.
Yeah. It's not for the weak. It's not for the weak. I tell people all the time, I said, if our kids ever figured out that we're winging it, now for me, fortunately with 6 kids, I have some experience, and I tell them every now and then one of them will tell me something. I say, okay, back up for a second. You need to think about what you just said. So for example, one of my kids thought it would be a great idea to shave off their eyebrow. Ooh. And they come walking in the house, and their hair's leaned over this one eye, which they never wear their hair that way. Mm-hmm. That's suspect. Hey. And they go back and take a shower. Okay. Take a shower. Get out. Dad, I was taking a shower, and I was looking at the razor, and it shaved my eyebrow. And I said, okay. I said, it's 2:00 now. Your mom will be home at 6. If I were you, I would spend the next 4 hours trying to come up with a better story than that. Mm-hmm. I said, because that's not believable. That's not what happened at all.
I cannot think of a good reason to do that.
No.
That's
kids
a point
being
in
kids.
life
Yeah.
that's like, there is no good reason as an adult to do that. But I'm sure as a teenager, there was some reason.
I'm sure. Here's what I think.
Yeah.
Because girls especially, they get body shamed so much. So all it takes is for one person to say, wow, you have bushy eyebrows. And next thing you know, they're wanting to trim them. And I promise you, it came from somewhere in that realm. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so do you want to tell me what really happened? I shaved it off. Yeah, I know. I can tell.
Mm-hmm. But only one.
Yes, only one.
There's the difficulty.
Now,
yeah.
This same child, just 2 years prior to that, shaved off the other one.
Okay, so pattern of behavior here.
Yeah.
A need for bangs. That's all I can think.
I just, and you think her brothers cut her any slack?
Oh, no.
Mm-mm. Because it wasn't that long ago, we were all sitting at the table one night eating, and something gets said and said, yeah, for a kid who shaved off both their eyebrows separately from each other. So no, they don't cut her any slack. But raising kids is not easy. It's and again, it's not for the weak. Not for the weak at all. No. So we've talked a little bit about the college and some of the things you have planned. Again, I am just stoked, giddy, I think is the term I used earlier, and that's the most accurate description about the baseball stadium and the program. And I'm looking forward to, like I said, I'm looking forward to just the days where I say, hey kids, jump in, let's go. Mm-hmm. When I lived in the Shreveport area, my oldest, Micah, I'd say, you want to go to a captain's game? Because they had the Shreveport captain. And she's like, yeah. So we'd jump in the truck and away we'd go. And it was nothing for us because we were where we lived was only about 3 hours from Houston. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, hey, it'd be like 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Astros play at 1 today. You want to go? Yeah. We'd jump in the truck and we'd drive to Houston and go to watch Astros game and come home that evening,
Yeah.
That's just always been one of the things. And what's so funny is she ended up knowing more about sports than most boys. She was always my little partner that would get in the press box with me when I would call football games over the radio. And I'll never forget, we were playing this school in Natchitoches called St. Mary's. And there was a play where one of our players goes up to catch a ball, and the other player hits him early, and they throw a flag for pass interference. And their coaches are in the booth right next to us, and they're yelling, that's uncatchable. There's no pass interference on an uncatchable ball. It's uncatchable. It's uncatchable. She's 5. She looks over at him. She says, there's no such thing as uncatchable. That's the sign for uncatchable. No such thing for an uncatchable ball in high school. And they just stopped and looked at her and looked at me. I said, she's 5. Yeah. She's 5.
All right.
So
I like it.
But because we go to a baseball game, for example, and she'd be like, okay, what just happened? I was like, well, because everybody just go crazy. And she's like, no one hit the ball. And I was like, well, that guy's one of the best hitters in the league, and the bases are loaded, and there's 2 outs, and they struck him out. So none of those runs scored, and that's what everybody's stoked about, because that guy could have blown this game open with one swing. She's like, oh, okay. And then we were at a game one time in Houston. At that point, was still called Enron Field, and one of the players for the Astros, Lance Berkman, hits this towering shot to center field. And back then there was a hill out in the middle of center field with a flagpole. And, the center fielder would have to run up that hill to make a catch. He's running up that hill, and a fan catches the ball, and the umpires call him out for fan interference. And or maybe they just gave him a double for fan interference. And she was livid. She's maybe 7 or 8 at the time. She was livid. You mean to tell me you saw that from here? We're sitting closer. We couldn't see. And she's giving this umpire. And I mean, she's little. And the people around us are like, wow. But she was really into baseball,
What a great kid experience,
Yes.
That had to be some core memories there.
I was an adult before I ever saw the Astros lose a game in person, which was ironic. Now, according to my mom and dad both, I went to my first Astros game when I was about 4 or 5 months old. But the first one I remember had to be about like 1976 or so. And I just remember it was the Astrodome, and the Astrodome had a concourse. There weren't stairs. You just, it would real slowly. And I remember the concourse, it's dark because it's a dome stadium. And I just remember as we're walking out of that concourse towards the field, and it just little by little, it all begins to open up. And I'll never forget, I went, oh, and I grabbed my dad's hand. And it was just so awe-inspiring to me, just to see it. And for the first, what in my memory was the first time, And I'll never forget the Astros were playing the Montreal Expos. And I had never seen them lose a game until I was an adult in person, and they lost that one bad. But my son Jackson and I, we got to go to the World Series in Houston in 2022, and that was so fun. I mean, how many times in your life do you get to say, I went to the World Series? And now look, the seats we were sitting in, I mean, we're in the right field foul line, and there are only like 11 rows behind us to the roof. I mean, we're way up there, and they're steep seats. And but it was a once in a lifetime thing. I say once, I hope it's not, but if it is, it was a once in a lifetime event to get to go to the World Series. And he's been to several World Series. He's also been to he's been to an NBA's finals game. And he's like, now I need to go to a Super Bowl. I'm like, dude, I don't think you know what those tickets cost. Those World Series tickets were like $700 a piece. Those, in 2003, the Super Bowl was being held in Houston at NRG Stadium. And I had thought about, well, it'd be a great promotion for us to buy a couple of tickets to the Super Bowl, put together a package, and send the lucky listener and a guest to the Super Bowl in Houston. And at that time, we had air service from El Dorado to Houston.
Right.
And I had a connection with a rental car company, so we'd get them a rental when they got to Houston, and they, hotel, all that. And so I contact them, the stadium, and told them who I am and what I do, and they're like, yeah. And I said, what am I looking at for tickets? Now, if I do that with a Major League Baseball team, they're like, hey, don't worry about tickets. Yeah. We got it. We love that you're going to promote our game, blah, blah, blah. They were like, well, we can give you a discount. And I was like, great. $3,800 each, and that was in 2003, and those weren't good seats.
Oh my!
$3,800. It's like, never mind.
Steep. That's steep.
Never mind. Because here's the thing: we have to be able to sell sponsors to that.
Yeah.
To do that. There's no way. I'm going to put together a $9,000 sponsorship in just a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just no.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a few weeks, but still.
That would have been a lot.
Yeah, but that was 23 years ago. I can't imagine what tickets to the Super Bowl cost now.
Wouldn't even dare.
Yeah. Now, if my youngest son was here right now, he'd say, "Dad, it's easy. Ask Alexa." He asks her everything. She's the best babysitter we've ever had. She can keep him entertained for hours. He just talks to her like she's a normal person, just like she's sitting in the room. And there was a time where he would be like, I'm like, "Okay, buddy, it's time to go to bed." He's like, "Okay." And he'd hug his mama and he'd hug me and he'd walk by and he'd say, "Good night, Alexa." And she'd be like, "Good night, sweet dreams, sweet boy."
I don't know whether I love that or it's terribly creepy.
It's terribly
it's
creepy.
Somewhere in between.
Yes, it is. It is 100% creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And, my thermostat for the house is connected.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can just say, raise the temperature or lower the temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll do that. My wife absolutely refuses. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma last summer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a business meeting, middle of June, and I get a text in the middle of this business meeting, "It's hot in here. Tell your girlfriend to turn the temperature down."
Oh.
And so I'm like, "Excuse me 1 second."
Yeah.
And I hit the app on my phone and I lower it 2 degrees. And then I get home and I say, "You do realize that all you have to say," and she said, "I know." I refuse to talk to her. We had to watch the boy because when he was really small, like 3-4 years old, he would order stuff.
Yes.
And so this $5.99 charge kept showing up on my wife's debit card every week. And she's like, "What is this? I've looked, and I can't find it." And it's Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally get deep into it and figure out he's ordered nighttime bedtime stories. And it's $5.99 a week.
Well, at least it was bedtime stories. When I started noticing extra chocolate milk show up in our Walmart delivery, I was like, okay, something's going on here. Then I happened to open the phone one day and a TV had been added to our Walmart order.
Really?
So yeah, they got smart. The worst was when I got a contact from Home Depot to arrange for the freight delivery of the swimming pool. That's when all the access got cut off.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's like, okay, glad this wasn't something they were going to try and ship through FedEx because that freight delivery saved me about $1,000 worth of a swimming pool.
Wow.
He wanted a pool.
Yeah, I mean.
Add to TV and some chocolate milk. It's a kid's summer dream.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Now, here probably 6-8 months ago, my wife was like, "Hey, we got to figure out what that boy has done."
Mm-hmm.
Your son, I think she said. Your son.
It's in trouble when it's your
when
son.
he's mine.
Yeah.
And otherwise, he's mama's sweet little boy. But when he does something wrong, he's your son. We got to figure out what your son has done. I'm like, "Which one and what?" And because I have 3 sons. And she's like, "That youngest one." I was like, "Okay." And she said, he's done something because there's a $197 charge on my debit card. And she said, I've been on the phone with the bank. They've looked at the charge. They told me the IP address it came from, which was in this house.
Mm-hmm.
So he's done something. And so I'm like, okay, I'm looking through the apps that have been downloaded on, because we have an Alexa show, the one with the screen, and I'm looking through, there's nothing new. I'll go back through the order history through Amazon. I'm not seeing anything. This goes on for 2 days.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure it out for 2 days. And I don't remember how, but somewhere along the lines, she came across this line of code, and somewhere in that code it said CBS. And I'm like, hang on, CBS. Hold that. I pulled up our Roku, and I went to Paramount Plus.
Uh-huh.
and I went to the account and subscription. It had just renewed, and it was like $177 a year with tax.
So it wasn't him.
It wasn't him.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, did he get you the advanced sports package?
Yeah, exactly. My wife one time she ordered some station on our Roku so that I could watch a particular sporting event live that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to see. And it was $7.99 for the first 30 days, and then after that it went to the normal amount of $29.99 a month or whatever it was. I don't remember. And she told me, she said, I forgot to cancel that. And she said, and I was balancing my checkbook today, and I was like, she said, I didn't think about it, but this charged them like 3 times now, last 3 months for $29.99. And she's like, and I remembered, oh no, that was that subscription.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean,
they're counting on you to forget.
I probably pay for lots of stuff that I don't realize I'm paying for, but I'm probably not mad about any of them other than Netflix. Netflix makes me mad because, when I started Netflix, it was $7.99, I think, and then if I wanted one of my children to be able to access Netflix at their house, that's fine. It just goes to $9.99 or $12.99 or whatever it was. And now my Netflix is $27.99 a month, and no one outside of my house can watch it. And I'm like, I thought I was paying the extra for that purpose, And then I'm really gonna have to go in and look because I don't watch Netflix very much. And the only thing I'll say is Netflix is starting to do live events that I do watch. So like the whole Mike Tyson fight, I couldn't have watched if I didn't have Netflix. Although they pooped to bed that night because anyone who remembers, it lagged so bad because it got so many people were watching. Netflix servers couldn't keep up. But I could watch it on my phone. And it was the weirdest thing. So I pulled Netflix up on my phone because doing what I do, I realized that sometimes your server for mobile is different from your server for other stuff. And so I'm watching it on my phone. And
because most weren't.
And so, sitting there on the couch and actually everyone in the room ended up putting Netflix on their phone and watching it while it was still a circle going round and round on the screen. So, but I don't know. I probably should cancel it, but maybe the kids watch it. I don't know.
Well, going back to the conversation earlier about the things we never said in the 80s, when I've taken my kids to hotels, they're just completely confused by the concept of commercials. Like, why did the show stop? Or why can I only watch this show now and it's already in progress?
Yes.
They've been raised on that streaming TV.
Oh, exactly.
It's entirely, it's like, man, you've never had to record something on a VCR and sit there and wait to press the button right before the commercials came on just so you'd have a nice intact copy. Like, they're never going to have that.
Yeah, never, ever. My 10-year-old, I mean, she was like, hey, I want to watch blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, and I don't remember where we were, but what we had was the cable or whatever. And I'm like, well, baby, that's not on. No, all you got to do is search for it. I'm like, I understand what you're saying. You don't understand. It's not that easy.
No.
Not with this. If we were at home and you wanted to watch whatever it was, Princess Ponies or whatever, we could just type that in and we'd find it, right? But that's not the case. This is whatever is on is what's on, and that's what you have to watch. Now, you can either watch it or don't. I don't care, but that's what's on. So, what do you mean? Not just... How primitive was your life? I said, when I was a kid, there were 3 channels, okay? We had 3, and PBS, so I guess there was 4.
I was going to say, we had 3 that came in clear, and then 1 that you had to kind of angle the antenna a little bit to get, so you were lucky.
When we left Houston and moved up to our family farm in East Texas, depending on what we were watching, I may have to run outside and churn the aerial. That big pole, I get up there and churn. How's that? Does that look good? Yeah, that's good. Okay. And run back in the house,
Now people are taking satellite dishes and turning them into gazebos.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I remember, my friends they had those big satellite dishes in their yards. And, man, you go there and watch anything and everything. And there was a hardware store in town that sold satellite dishes and all that. And the owner had gotten real good at, and so he started making those little boxes that you could plug in that would descramble all the channels.
Oh, yeah.
And
I remember those.
And man, everyone loved him. Yeah, right up until he got a federal indictment.
Yep.
And I mean, literally, the FBI comes in and arrests him in his store for that.
Yeah.
And his wife was a school teacher. And I just remember thinking, you know, how do you go to prison? And they're like, so what are you in for? Murder. Killed 3 people. What are you in for? Armed robbery. Grand theft auto. What are you in for? Descrambling satellite stations.
En masse.
You know, so it's like, you're going to get picked on in jail. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, unless you serve a purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a particular set of skills that could make that TV work better.
That's right.
So let's go.
That's right. So you better be a really good cook. You know, extra helpings for those guys or something. You know. So, anything else happening at the college we need to cover?
So much. I mean, between our construction and our new programs, a lot is happening. But I think the thing that I want to focus on is the fact that there's just this general excitement and hope about the future and the way things are going. There's just a feeling of prosperity that we're starting to see, and we're seeing students turn to us as not just their hometown college, but the one that they want to go to, which is just fantastic to see. And, you know, I want to bring people in to our community to live and to learn here, and that's why we've got the housing. But we also want to retain young people in our community and show them the opportunities that are happening here in South Arkansas in terms of career, in terms of education and training. And, you know, everybody's always talking about the grass being greener, but between the stadium, the ballpark, and MAD, the grass may be greener, but we got a whole lot of turf.
Yeah, that's right.
I
like that.
So that's just, I think that's just kind of the summary of there's progress happening in terms of construction, there's progress happening in terms of our academics, but there's just this vibrancy, and it's palpable.
You were 100% correct. So I told you about the ladies who were at the table earlier, and I hear this several times a week. Maybe not every day, but several times a week. Well, that college really is doing well. Man, that college is really going.
Yeah.
And that's what those ladies, when I told them today that you were going to be our guest, and they were like, you know, I'm just tickled. That college is really growing. That college is really doing something. And I think it's important. You know, when I was on the board of directors at the hospital, I understood, number one, I knew I wasn't on the board for my medical knowledge because I have none. I was there for my business acumen. And I understood my role. But I also understood that you cannot recruit people to a community if you don't have adequate health care. And then I've tried to apply that to any boards or directorships that I sit on, is what is my purpose, number one, and what is the community derive from what we do? And I'm tickled with the college, and again the constant growth to what does our community need. Think about, you know,
we're not doing this for us,
right? And just simple. I'll say this 2 words: wage certificates. There, you know. So our local companies say, "Hey, we need people who can do this and are trained for this and can pass this and can do that." And like college says, "Okay, we got you. We got you. We'll take care of that." You know, it's another one of those instances where you listen to the community, you're doing what the community needs, and growing as where the growth is needed in the community. You know, if we had let's just say if we had a Walmart or an Amazon shipping center here, then I'm sure y'all would change the curriculum to
figure out how to serve that,
to meet a need that they have, you know. And that's what I appreciate about South Arkansas College. You know, I've told all of my children, especially the ones who graduated high school or are about to. My oldest, I told her, because she got an offer to Duke. And I said, look, kid, if you have to get on a plane to go to school, then let's put it at a school that's going to matter. I said, but 99% of the time, the name at the very top of that diploma doesn't really matter. It really doesn't.
No.
I said, there's a handful, yes, if you get one that says Brown or Harvard or Yale or Princeton or Stanford, that might matter. Might. It may also disqualify you at places. Whereas the rest of it is not going to matter. So I used to tell them, say, if you want to spend the first 2 years here and knock out, all those required essential classes, then that's okay. Well, by the time she graduated high school, she was a junior in college anyway, or about to be a junior. And then my oldest son, he got a full ride to OBU, so that, and Cam, he was going to Louisiana Tech, period, the end. But now my 18-year-old, who's about to graduate high school, she's been determined she was going to go to Louisiana Tech since she was 7. And she says, a little while back, I applied to South Ark. And I was like, yeah? She's like, yeah. She said, Daddy, I think I'm going to spend my first couple of years here. She said, I like my bed.
Hey, that's great.
You mean you don't want to have to go take a shower with other people? I mean, I don't understand.
But that's the thing I wish more parents and more kids understood, because the kids have all been sold on the idea of going to college. And kind of tying back to your thing earlier, where we were talking about the fact that you were told no college, you're going to work. Well, the conversation needs to be with these kids that are 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Is not just where do you want to go to college. It's what do you want to do. Because so many are picking based on a mascot. So many are picking based on this image of college that they have, and they couldn't even tell you a major. And so having these conversations with students about what they want to do after they graduate and helping them make smart decisions instead of getting degrees that they end up having to. I mean, I love our returning students with bachelor's degrees.
Yes.
But I think it's just a sign of the times that we need to talk about what careers they want and what life they want.
Yes.
Because that goes hand in hand. If you want the kind of life where you have a family and the Disney World vacations and you have the boat in the driveway and you never work a weekend, these are the kinds of jobs that works for. Because, and some people are just drawn to a mission and they feel like they're called to help people or they're called to a certain field. But a lot of folks are just not entirely sure what their job and what their plan is going to be, but you start talking to them about the life they want to live. And the more that we can have this conversation with kids and we can get away from the stigma or the alliances to whatever our favorite university or college is, and really get to the meat of what they want to do with the rest of their lives and how this is part of that. This isn't an island. This isn't a bubble in itself, because high school can look like a bubble that ends with senior years and paying parking spots. And then college can look like a bubble of, these are all of the things that I did, and I attended some lectures in between there. It's not a bubble, it's a path. And we just need to make it okay for people to ask those questions about, is this the right fit for you? Do you want to start at a 2-year college? Do you want to get a 4-year degree at all, or do you want to go into a technical field and make $70,000 a year after 2 years of a degree?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the kinds of things that we've just kind of been trained to. Well, the next aspirational level is to send them off to the biggest, shiniest thing that you could send them off to, and then they never return, or they return and they have to do something else because it doesn't fit.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot tell you the number of employees I've had over the years who had a degree in X that have never used that degree, and never will.
Right.
And they're like, man, if I'd only known then, but I was bound and determined,
right.
know. And one of my kids started off in school and college was going to be a biology major because they wanted to go to medical school. look, I wasn't going to poison the water, but I'm just thinking this kid struggled for every B they got. Medical school, are we sure? You know, and so it didn't take but a couple of tests to realize maybe this isn't the path.
Right.
You know, and they changed their direction and were able to choose a different major. But you know, look, life is what happens to us every day. So you could be, you know, so my daughter who's about to graduate law school, when she was 8 years old, decided she wanted to be an attorney. She wanted to go to law school.
That's always been her path.
And then her senior year of college, she takes the LSATs and bombs them. So then she says, okay, I'm going to get a master's degree in public administration, and starts that path. And heart was never in it. Just never was in it. And she spent 7 years working, and I think she did a stint at South Arkansas College, and then working for an attorney who would walk by her desk every day and say, hey, you need to go to law school. You're too smart to be answering my phones. You need to go to law school. Hey, most people I have to show them that 10 to 12 times before they know how to do it. I showed you once. You need to go to law school. So she decides, okay, I'm going to take the LSATs again. She takes them and just knocks it out of the park. And now here we are. And my son, who's a civics teacher at the high school, I've known since that boy was little he was going to be a teacher. There was never any question in my mind. He has known since he was little he was going to be a teacher, right up until he got ready to graduate college. And then he said, am I becoming a teacher because I want to be a teacher, or because that's what I think everyone expected from me? And so he said, let me try something else. And so he went to work for Louisiana Tech. And he was a student retention specialist. And because Louisiana Tech figured out, like most schools, that when kids get in academic trouble and they drop out, they don't pay tuition.
Right.
You know, kind of a strange thing. So let's do what we can to keep them in class and keep them coming. And so his job was, he'd call a student and say, hey, look, you and I both know you're on the fence here. You're in trouble. Let's see what we can figure out today to get you off that red line. You know, what can we do today? So, for example, I've looked at your schedule. You can drop this class. You're still in the window. You can drop this class. It doesn't count against you. And we can come back to it at another time when you don't have such a heavy course load, you know, heavy load of classes. This class, I've already talked to your professor. They tell me you're not showing up. So if you want to keep your scholarship, or you want to stay eligible for sports, or whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, then I need you to get buy-in here as well. And amazingly, when they realize there's accountability, a lot of those students respond positively, you know. So I think it's so dangerous to begin to, because I was in ninth grade when the school counselor come in and said, handed us all a sheet of paper and said, write down on there what you want to be when you graduate, what it is you want to do. Well, if that were the case, I'd be a game warden today. That's what I wrote. I wanted to be a game warden. I just think that when we buttonhole kids at that point, whereas with me, I keep telling them, look, you may not know what you want to be when you grow up, when you're grown up. I said, so there's nothing wrong with spending a couple years at home. Save that money, save that debt. And especially if you're graduating from El Dorado with the El Dorado Promise.
Yes.
Let's put that money to great use. And you'll have meals cooked at home. I know they don't seem like a big deal to you now, but wait till you don't. I'm going to tell you right now, my 31-year-old law school student would absolutely gnaw your arm off for a chance to come home and eat my brisket. She would absolutely fight you for a chance to come home and eat Casey's tacos. I promise you. It's just different. And that's, you know.
Past the point of the novelty of the freedom associated with eating ramen for every meal.
Oh, my gosh. But, you know, save that debt. Don't incur that debt if you don't have to. You can be at home. Yes, you have to abide by my rules, which are so hideous, right? And, you know, in return, you will get to sleep in your bed. Guess what? We have a washer and a dryer in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I know it seems like a little bitty thing, but I promise you it's not. I promise you it's not. We have a washer and dryer in the house. There's hot water anytime you're ready to take a shower. Most of that stuff that you buy and need for that you have stacked up across your bathroom counter, I'll pay for that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll just throw it in the cart, I'll pay for it. May not seem like a big deal now, but the first time you have to go buy all that stuff yourself, you'll realize how big of a deal that is. You don't have a razor to shave your legs? You can always just ask Mom for one. It's not a big deal to you now, but I promise you, know. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, you're knocking this out, and you're getting these, and there will be something that will come on you like, I'm really interested in that. Mm-hmm. And then you can explore that and see, is that something, is there a career path there? Mm-hmm. I love history. I don't know why. I'm kind of a nerd like that. I do know why. I said that the other day. I said I don't know why when I really do. It was the teachers. It was the teachers who taught me history, mm-hmm. and just the way they taught it, And it was like, it's hard to believe that this stuff actually happened. And they're telling me about it like they were there. Mm-hmm. And, they weren't, but obviously.
But that's, having those engaged faculty members that love and care about their discipline, but it's also about the right size classes. And when we think about sending students off for those gen eds, you're going to be in a room of 100 people with a teaching assistant.
Oh, you better hope.
You come to Southwark and you're going to be in Dr. Vernita Morgan's class for college algebra, and she will notice every day that you're not there, and we'll talk to you about your progress. And you think you might be interested in psychology, go take Dr. Jessica Brown's class, and you're going to get inspired. And you're probably going to make a neuron out of Play-Doh, but you're going to get inspired. And those early years are so easy to lose the momentum of going to college, mm-hmm. because you're not feeling that investment in the subject area and the discipline and as a person. And there's so many perks to doing those early classes, those gen eds where you're really trying to find your passion and find your place, and doing that at a place where people know your name. I mean, it's kind of like Cheers in that way, but yeah. All the other things aside, it's like Cheers in the people know your name.
Yeah, and just like I listen, college is not for everyone.
No.
Not every high school graduate should go to college.
Southwark is for everyone, though. I gotta put that in there.
Because again, you have not neglected your VOTEC.
Right.
But just as I say, the people that college is for, big universities aren't for everyone.
No.
And living away from home isn't for everyone, especially mm-hmm. when you're 18 years old and you've really never had to be responsible for yourself. Not really.
Right.
Not really, you haven't. I was a different story. My dad moved back to Houston when I was 15, and I didn't want to go back to Houston. I just started my job at Coca-Cola. I already had my friends here. I was in high school there in the little town in East Texas, and so I stayed. And, Daddy said, okay, that's fine. You can stay right here at the house. Mm-hmm. I'll pay the electric bill until it gets to this amount. And then he said...
motivates you to turn the lights off.
Exactly. And he said, but there's a deep freeze full of stuff out there, but once that's gone, you're buying your own groceries. And so from 15 through 18, the end of my sophomore year until I graduated high school, I lived on my own. And the electric bill was always more than Daddy said he was willing. Because here was his thing. If the house were sitting empty mm-hmm. and he was paying the electric bill, it would only be X amount.
Right.
And that's all he was going to pay. And so when I went to technical school, I didn't have to figure out how to be on my own. I didn't have to figure out how to do laundry. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to figure out how to cook for myself.
Yeah.
I knew those things. But I was the exception. I promise you, no one else I went to high school with was mm-hmm. living that same life.
Yeah.
And as crazy as it is, I can't believe that I didn't throw parties. It was a lake house. We lived on a lake with a huge deck and a huge patio that overlooked the water. How I didn't throw parties at that house, I will never know.
With the amount of time you talked about working and going to school and driving,
Yeah.
you had to be exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing.
I was going to say, there's no time for that.
So, for example, when I worked at Coca-Cola, I mentioned earlier, I love that job, but I was in danger of getting fired because the plant manager's son and I got into a fist fight. And I was 16, he was 26. And we had stopped to get some lunch, and the young lady I was seeing at the time, my girlfriend at the time, was there, and she had lunch with us, and we left, and he said something, and I don't remember what he said, but it was derogatory about my girlfriend. And I didn't say anything, and we were delivering ice. That's bags of ice. And so we get to this next stop, and I'm up there, and I'm throwing these bags of ice out there to him, and he said something smart alecky, and it was just, I had it. And I started hurling that ice at him as fast as I could, and he was like, have we got a problem? I was like, yeah, we got a problem. So we ended up in a fist fight, and I don't know what story he would tell, but I won. And it was pretty obvious when we got back to the plant that I had won. And I just knew I'm going to get fired. Well, I had a cousin that worked there with me, and he said, man, he said, what you need to do is, he said, you need to figure out how to do one of these other jobs. And at that plant, we also accepted aluminum for recycling and paid, we weighed it and paid people for it. And then, of course, we had the ice house where we bagged ice. And so the next morning, I got there early, and I just went straight in the ice house, and I taught myself how to bag that ice. It was always a problem. They could never get anyone to consistently do it. And I think that was the only thing that saved my job, was I was willing to go in that cold ice house and bag ice for them. And then it was like every Saturday and Sunday I was bagging ice. I mean, sometimes in the middle of the night I was bagging ice, and but I learned how to do something. Yeah. And so I say all that to say I got to work as many hours as I wanted to. And so it was nothing for me on a Friday night, when the plant would close at 5, and then the plant manager would say, that ice bin's full. Well, I knew what that meant. That meant about 3.5 hours of me bagging ice, and I could have it empty. And he'd say, if you want the time, I'll pay you to stay and bag that ice. Yes, sir. And I'd run down there and start bagging ice. And so, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, I get off. You're right. I'm ready. I've had a full day at that point. I'm ready to go home. So yeah, that's why I didn't throw more parties, evidently. Yeah. And then I was just always broke. That was the other thing. I even though I worked a lot, I didn't
Tired and broke are two factors that would eliminate some social life.
That's exactly right. Even though I worked all those hours, and I actually at one point had a second job. I'd work Coca-Cola till 5, and then I went to Church's Chicken and fried chicken at nights. And but it was because I had an electric bill to pay, and I had groceries to buy, and vehicle insurance to pay for, and all those things. And also I learned what was essential and what wasn't.
Yeah.
So a home phone, for example, not essential. I cut that off immediately. Kicking the thermostat down, not necessarily essential.
Well, you spent all day in the ice house, so you're probably okay.
Yeah, most of the time. The bad part of that is I became acclimated to the ice house, and everything was hot. I was always hot after that. But as an adult, I do say this: I'll do a lot of things. I am not going to be hot in my own house. If the electricity's on and everything's working, I don't care what that electric bill is.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm not going to be hot in my own house. I tell them, I say, I'll cut Netflix off. I'll cut the internet off, which I won't. But, I said, but I'm not going to be hot.
Right.
We can eat beanie weenies as far as I'm concerned, but I'm not going to sweat. Sweating doesn't bother me. When I go to bed, it needs to be cool. And so.
It's South Arkansas.
Isn't it funny how
the AC is important.
We all have those little idiosyncrasies about us, I know people who can't sleep without their pillow.
Yeah.
They go on vacation, their pillow goes with them. They go on a town business trip, that pillow goes with them. They just can't sleep without their pillow. I know people that they go to a hotel and they say, "Do you have a box fan? Do you have?"
Because they need the sound.
Because they need the sound of a fan. and which I saw a while back. Someone made an app that sounds like a fan.
Oh yeah.
You know, just
those white noise machines have been very helpful.
Yeah. And me, we had one that sounded like it was thunder and rain outside. That put me on a heartbeat.
It's been one of those days that because of this weather, it's like, man, this is great napping weather.
It is great napping weather. Yeah. Nothing makes it harder to get out of bed in the morning than you wake up and you hear it thunder. And you're like, oh man. And that was this morning for me. I was laying there and I woke up. And you know, being a man of 54 years old, I've got to pee, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and get up. And I heard it thunder. I was like, no, I'm not. I went and laid right back down. Now I only laid down for a few more minutes, but it just, man, something about when it's thundering outside and raining, I could stay in bed.
That's good napping weather.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much for
really
coming and joining us. I appreciate you coming over, and of course, you have a standing invitation. I hope you know that. You do not ever have to ask.
Well, then I will let you know when we have some new announcements to make. And next October, we'll be wrapping up the ballpark. Yep. And so we'll have to get you guys out there to
we'll come out
to maybe
we'll go
do the
live.
podcast on the field.
Perfect.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be great. I would love to do the podcast either on the field or from the stands where you can see the field or whatever.
We got a nice press box coming too, but still.
Yeah. We need to talk about that too, by the way. We need to talk about that press box. So anyway, and let me also say this. I told you earlier how much I love Heath, and I do. But he never lets me escape a meeting without handing me a donor form for that ballpark.
Okay, good.
He definitely does his part on that, and so my partner, I've talked about that as well. Let me figure. I told him. He said, "Did you ever figure out what we were going to do? We wanted to donate over to the stadium." I was like, "No, I haven't." I said, "Let's find out what Uncle Sam wants first, and then we can determine what our level of commitment can be."
You know, you could always put your name on a couple of seats. It'd be hard to argue with somebody that said, "Nope, that's my name on the chair."
That's my name. That's my name right there. That's right. Yeah, we want to hope to do something maybe a little bigger, and you know, I've already got somebody named the stadium after them, so there's that. You know, I mean, I could have easily seen it being, you know, welcome to South Arkansas Now Field.
I appreciate that, but we've got a very kind donor,
very generous.
That's also got a good story that you need to talk to him about sometime.
Yes.
You need to talk to Bill Howard.
Yes.
So
maybe we'll just have to settle for the foul poles. I don't know, but anyway.
Hey, the bases are still available.
Are they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that would. Anyway, that's all stuff we can discuss at some point. But again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our audience and thank you to our sponsors. We do appreciate each of you. Without you, obviously, this wouldn't happen. That's going to do it for us. This is SouthArkansasNow.com and Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. God bless and have a great weekend.
With a history of being the voices you trust, this is Off the Back Porch.